How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Kurumu, Moka and Mizore. Huge shout out to QB16 for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Naruto slowly began to wake up and began stretching his arms. He rubbed the sleep crust from his eyes as he sat up. All things considering this afternoon was rather boring, a perfect layabout sort of a day. He was starting to regret his decision to relive his childhood as a civilian in this world, but what else could he do? This was far more boring than anything he had to do as the 7th Hokage. Being a civilian student sucked way more than the seemingly endless amount of paperwork that came with being the village leader. Unlike Hagoromo, after his first natural life had passed, Naruto wasn't someone who could simply just sit and observe. He had to get out where the action was. Yeah. Action. He mentally grumbled as he realized he should have learned more about this world, besides that there were monsters in it. He decided he spent enough time on the roof and dropped down to the ground. He began making his way to the library when he heard muted shouts outside by the entrance. He shuffled over towards the door, suddenly curious as to what was happening. As he got closer he heard the unmistakable sounds of shuffling feet and sniffling. Sniffling. Someone was crying outside. He started off in a rush to the origin of the noise. If there was one thing Naruto refused to tolerate, it was bullying. The rising anger inside him bubbled over as he saw the scene unfold in front of him. A petite pink-haired girl was laying on the floor curled into a ball to try and protect herself as a horde of kids kicking at her. The mixed group of boys and girls taunted the girl and shouted things at her like, loser and freak, whilst continuing their assault on her. Naruto was outraged. Kicking up a rock he followed up with a second kick that sent it flying and nailing one of the kids in the shoulder. The boy dropped to his knees with a startled cry as he clutched his shoulder and began to wail. Leave, now. He yelled. The other members of the group stopped their assault to turn and glare daggers at the boy. When Naruto crossed a distance faster than they could comprehend, they began to lose nerve. Naruto bent down to the girl to see if she was okay. Are you okay? He asked as the girl sighed away from him. It's okay, I won't hurt you. He helped her sit up. He noticed her send a fearful glance at the kids and decided it was time to go. Scooping her up in his arms, he decided to find a place where he could talk with her. Taking the girl back to his napping spot, he introduced himself. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Are you alright? He asked as the girl nodded. Yeah. She answered with a sniffle. Why did you help me? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Why wouldn't I? He wondered. Why were those kids picking on you? Was it because your hair? He asked as a frown formed on the girl's lips. No, she hesitated, unwilling to divulge any further. You'll just make fun of me like the others. Everyone already thinks I'm a freak, she said as she brought her knees to her chin. Try me. I've seen some weird things. Have you ever wondered if monsters were real? She timidly asked as recognition flickered in Naruto's eyes. Oh, so you're a monster. That explains it. He casually stated, shocking the girl. What? The girl was obviously shocked at how easily and calmly he was accepting it. You aren't scared or hate me? Well, let's just say while I'm not a monster, I'm not a normal human myself. He replied with a grin. So what kind of monster are you? A vampire. She answered. Huh? Wow, you look nothing like a vampire, or at least what I heard of. You're even out in the day. In fact, would you be willing to tell me all about the mirror? What was your name? He asked, realizing that he didn't even get her name. Moka Akashiya. Moka. She introduced herself. You're really okay with me being a vampire? She seemed to be in disbelief of the whole situation still. Of course. I'd be a crappy friend if I didn't. He responded as Moka's eyes widened. You really want to be my friend? She asked as the blonde nodded. I don't see why not. He said as he watched a smile broke out on Moka's face. I would like that. And with that a new friendship was formed. Naruto found himself jolted awake thanks to the bumpy motion of the bus. Sitting up he began glancing out the window. He couldn't help but be a bit bored. At the very least, going to this academy will be far more interesting than it was a civilian school. He picked at the clothing he was wearing, a school uniform consisting of a white collared shirt, brown pants, a green blazer and a black tie. He was a bit annoyed there wasn't a hint of orange in it. He also had to admit he was interested in who the hell this headmaster was and how he managed to track Naruto down to deliver this invitation to the academy. Either way, the man was obviously a monster, either a powerful one or one well connected. It just made the things all the more interesting. While he enjoyed peace, he also hated being bored. Glancing out the window once more, he took notice that they were no longer in the city. He couldn't help but wonder, was he really the only person that was going to pick up? It felt like the bus had been going for hours and he was the only one laying against these rather hard seats. He closed his eyes and simply just tried to put his mind off things when the bus came to the stop. To his surprise the doors opened and someone walked up, a boy walked in with a bag slung over his shoulder. He had black hair, brown eyes and wore the same uniform that Naruto himself was wearing. Nothing special about him. "So you're Aonotsu-kun?" The bus driver asked, his glowing eyes freaking the boy out slightly. "Yes, I am." Sukun replied as he gave the bus driver a nervous smile while the doors behind him closed. Naruto paid little of the conversation between the boy and bus driver. Since the boy sat within speaking distance, Naruto introduced himself. "Uzumaki Naruto, I was beginning to think I would be the only one riding this bus." He tended his hand. "Aonotsu-kun." Sukun took the offered hand and shook it with a smile on his face, internally glad that he was able to meet a seemingly nice person on his first day. "So are you a first year as well?" "I am actually, so this is going to be a rather interesting experience. What I'm really looking forward to is meeting up with an old friend of mine who's also going." "Really? What is your friend like?" "Well, for one, she's really sweet and a nice cook. Actually a bit too nice for her own good, but she has a good heart. She has distinct pink hair and has some unusual tastes. Her name is Moka, like the cafe drink." "Wow, she sounds nice." Sukun replied. "You two best prepare yourselves," the bus driver suddenly said, gaining both teens' attention. "As soon as we exit this tunnel we'll be out the front of Yokai Academy." Whether they needed the time to prepare themselves or not, they didn't get the chance to, for as soon as the creepy bus driver finished speaking they exited the tunnel and the bus stopped. The bus driver huckled in that eerily creepy way once more as the two grabbed their things and made their way off of the bus. "You two have fun now, and do be careful." Naruto was rather impassive to the scary warning, while Tsukun started to freak out. Off to the side of them was a scarecrow with a pumpkin as a head, it had the front of it carved out as if it was ready for Halloween. A fair distance in front of them was a large building, which had lightning appear behind it almost a second later. Naruto presumed it was the school, while Tsukun just turned around to face the bus and roared with all he had. "What is this place? Where the hell did you drop us?" The black-haired boy then turned around to study the school building more thoroughly, his eyebrow twitching slightly. "It looks like a haunted mansion." "Relax," Naruto told him, an amused expression forming on his face. "The staff seems to be rather eccentric, or maybe they're preparing for Halloween. Unless you want to be late, I suggest you hurry up," he remarked as he began walking ahead. Reluctant, Tsukun began following after him. Seeing a path, Naruto continued making his way down when a feminine scream drew his attention. Coming through out of the way. Naruto turned as he saw a bicycle in pink barreling towards him. Naruto merely raised his arm and scooping the figure off the bike by her midsection as the pink went tumbling in the bushes. The girl in question was a teenager with cherry blossom pink hair flowing down her back. She had deep green eyes and wore a green of an eyesore blazer over a white blouse with a plaid skirt that parted enough to show her undergarments, which only served to make her look all the more arousing. Around her neck was a rosary with a red jewel in the center of it. The girl in question gazed up at the person whose arms she was in. A faint blush formed on her cheeks. "Hey there, Moka-chan, looks like you filled out a bit more since I last saw you." "Naruto." She couldn't stop herself as her hand met his cheek, causing the blonde to let her go, laughing his face off. "I haven't seen you in a year and that's the first thing you say," she finished in a huff, her cheeks burning and her arms folded. "Come on, Moka-chan, I was just messing around." He did his best pout, but the vampire refused to meet him. However could I ever get Moka-chan to forgive me?" he asked as he grabbed her arm and spun her around. "Maybe let her have her favorite meal?" he asked as he saw the pinkette's eyes light up. "Really? Are you sure?" Naruto had only let her drink his blood sparingly because of how often she had went out of the way to taste some in the past. Because of that, Moka treasured the moment she could drink his blood. With a nod of permission, she pounced. "Capuchu." She wrapped her arms around his neck and sunk her fangs into it while Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist to keep her steady as she drank away. Tsukun's jaw broke through the ground as his face heated up at what the two were doing. "Oh right," he sheepishly remarked, remembering they weren't alone. "Tsukun-san, this is my friend Moka-chan." He introduced the vampire hanging off his neck. The girl moaned and pushed her body against Naruto's even more as she happily drank his blood. It had been so long since she had some. The best part was since Naruto could regenerate, Moka could more than have her fair share during those rare feedings. Naruto patted her back, to which Moka pulled her fangs from his neck. She happily licked her lips and let out a content sigh as she placed her hand on her stomach. A blush rose to her cheeks as her eyes practically glazed over. "So good." She then remembered what Naruto was saying earlier. "Ah." Moka's blush deepened as she remembered someone else was there. "Hello, I'm Akashiya Moka, nice to meet you," she said with a bow. "Yuhi bite," the boy stammered as he pointed at the pinkette. "Vampire? You're a vampire?" he exclaimed. "Why yes she is, and a rather gluttonous one at that," he said as Moka let out a whine. Naruto-kun, so mean. She said with a pout. Anyway, nice to meet you, Tsukun-san. Her eyes then widened. Oh, we're going to be late. She suddenly remembered why she was rushing. Oh, my bike, where's my bike? She said as she began searching through the bushes. Human monsters even across dimensions. It always surprises me they always manage to make the skirt so short. Naruto murmured to himself as his eyes traveled along Moka's legs. Naruto-kun, help me. She cried out to the blonde. Alright, he said as he turned to Tsukun. You might want to hurry on ahead before you're late. We'll see you later. Still stunned and confused by what he had just witnessed, Tsukun took the suggestion and hurried on ahead. It took the two a few minutes to find the bike and readjust the chains to it was usable. The two of them happily chat as they made their way to the academy. The two of them had to unfortunately go separate ways so they could pick up their schedules. Hello everyone, welcome to Yokai Academy, I'm your homeroom teacher, Nekonim Shizuka, stated a very attractive woman, with blondish yellowish hair that had two tufts near the top that resembled cat ears. She wore a white blouse, an orange skirt, low-heel sandals and a pair of glasses. Naruto was smiling happily as he listened on, the teacher is really friendly and cute to boot, I think I'm gonna like it here. Shizuka continued, I'm sure everyone here already knows, but Yokai Academy is a school for monsters. Naruto nodded as he tried to keep the grin off his face. He couldn't wait to learn about the different kinds of monsters. Monsters, Tsukun thought as he gulped slightly. Wait a minute, does that mean Naruto-san's a monster too? As of now, the world is ruled by humans, so, this school was most likely built to teach monsters like us to coexist with humans. Shizuka walked, more like skipped, over to the words on the board and pointed at them with her pointer. In order for us monsters to continue to survive, we have no choice but to continue to peacefully coexist with the humans. The earth has already come under the control of the humans. At this academy, you will be studying how to coexist with humans. So for that reason, as a school rule you will all live your lives at this academy in human form. Do you understand? It's a matter of being able to disguise yourself well as a human. This is the foundation of coexistence. You are never to allow any of your fellow students to know your true form, understand? Hey teacher, would it not be better for us to eat those puny humans and in the case of beautiful girls, better to molest them? Some scruffy looking guy with lips piercing asked. Humans are nothing more than trash for us monster. If you're weak then your life means nothing more than being playthings for the strong. Naruto let out a snarl at him as his demonic energy threatened to spill. He hated beasts like that, those who didn't feel remorse for anyone and treated people like objects. He could feel the uneasiness of many male and female students alike. It was obvious that these students made up the weaker monsters and were part of the endless cycle that has been endlessly shitted on by the strong and elite as they were called. You're nothing more than a filthy beast. Naruto coldly remarked to the monster with the piercing. What did you say, punk? The punk monster teen with piercings demanded. You're a filthy beast and beings like you disgust me. He spat out as several students gasped. Saizu Kamiya was well known among several students as a delinquent who had several run-ins with the law and was currently serving probation. Why you little? Saizu got out of his seat and kicked it to the side. I'm going to pound you into mush. Please. This is the first day. It was obvious by Nekonim's demeanor she was not a violent monster by nature. Nervousness was rolling off of her and fear was not something a monster should show as it was a sign of weakness. Boy. Quiet you spineless beep. We're about to get some action. One boisterous student commented which quickly followed with the room being drowned in an intense, murderous aura. Before anyone knew what happened the student went flying into a window, half his body crashing through the window and hanging out of it. The female half of the class couldn't help but feel visibly uncomfortable in their seats. If by the way they squirmed was a visible sign of what they were thinking. Even Nekonim fidgeted uncomfortably where she stood. Sexual harassment and lewd comments were as common as the very students that inhabited the school. Tensions remained high as everyone waited for the blonder Saizu to make the first move. The pierced monster took a glance at the monster hanging out the window, one of his crew, and calculated his chances on winning, especially if a member of the safety commission got involved and Koyu got involved. Saizu might have been a thug, but he wasn't a brainless fool and reluctantly backed down, mentally promising to cause harm to the blonde later. Excuse me. A familiar voice said from the hallway. Sorry I'm late, Moka said as she entered the doorway. The tensions that were filling the room earlier had come to a stop as everyone began focusing on the pretty newcomer. Oh that's fine, just take a seat, Nekonim said with a relaxed exhale that the situation seemed to dispel. Okay. Moka replied with a friendly smile as she stepped in and looked around for a place she could sit. Of course when she entered the class the guys started drooling like idiots and commented on her beauty. That girl is hot. She's totally cute. I agree. When Naruto finally saw who it was he smiled and waved, hey, Moka-chan. Moka turned to see who was calling her when she saw her friend waving at her, resulting in her eyes lighting up with complete and utter joy as she found the owner of it. Without a moment's hesitance she moved at him in a rapid pace and pulled the blonde out of his seat, squeezing him affectionately against her body. "Naruto-kun, we're in the same class, oh I'm so happy," she said with a squeal. Things continued on without much incident. Naruto promised to hang out with Moka later, but first he wanted to talk with their teacher. "Nekonom-sensei," a word, he called out to the woman, startling her. He could hear her heartbeat quicken and notice how stiff her body went. "Nekonom-sensei, I hope you can forgive me for my actions earlier. I took notice of the comfort of my fellow students and let my own emotional behavior override what my mind was telling me. I hope you don't think I was trying to dismiss your authority, but it looked like you needed a little help." Nekonom's nerves began to unwind as that biting terror she felt from before melted away. The threatening aura from before that nearly left her paralyzed was now nothing more than a fading memory, as standing before her was a gentle warmth that sent tingles down her spine. Seeing as it was her first year as a teacher, Nekonom was plenty worried about her performance, and that shone. Considering how incomplete her disguise was and that she wasn't exactly the brightest monster, her job prospects were rather limited. And when Naruto took her hand and kissed it, Nekonom couldn't help but flush. "It's okay Naruto-kun, please don't let it happen again," she commented as she hoped he didn't catch the sight of her wagging tail, betraying the effect he was having on her. Nekonom resisted the urge to pout as the blonde drew back his hand. "Okay sensei," he said before biting her farewell and went to join Moka. With class over, Naruto and Moka began traveling the halls as they tried to find a vending machine to get something to drink. During it all, Moka closed the distance between them as she took notice of the looks everyone, especially the boys, were giving her. While she was in human school, most kids made fun of her, not only because of her help that monsters were real, but the fact that her bubblegum pink hair was not natural among humans, so it made her stick out. So of course, because of this, being an outcast among humans, she never really considered herself beautiful enough to draw the fuss she was receiving today with ogling eyes and lustful looks. Though, Naruto's rather possessive gaze and threatening looks made most of the students to think twice about approaching them. Finally they walked outside and went over by some tables with umbrellas with a nice view of the forest surrounding the school. Finally they came across a vending machine that served hot drinks. Moka took a sip of her drink and smiled. "It's delicious, isn't it?" she asked. "Yeah," he answered as he sat his drink down. "I'll be right back. Try and stay out of trouble," he playfully teased her as he went to the bathroom. To her surprise, moments later Tsukun was walking by looking nervous and miserable. "Tsukun-san, hey over here," she waved him over. He seemed to take notice of her and reluctantly walked over. "Naruto-kun and I didn't see you after class. What happened?" "Nothing, I was," he shifted his eyes, trying to think of an excuse. "Just trying to find my way around the school." "Oh," Moka of course bought his lie. "Naruto-kun was wondering if he scared you off. He sometimes forgets his bloodlust is really scary to others." "Right," he answered as he began looking around. The blonde's bloodlust indeed had nearly caused his heart to stop. He was really different from the relaxed guy on the bus. He should be back soon. I'm going to enjoy catching up with him. How long have you two been friends? He never mentioned you before. "Well, we just met actually." He answered the question, having calmed down. Glancing at Moka, Tsukun couldn't help but notice her ethereal-like beauty. He surely would have been smitten, but quickly remembered how close she was to Naruto and didn't want to face the blonde's wrath. "You're Akashiya Moka, correct?" The two turned their heads to see the pierced student Tsukun recognized Naruto almost got into a fight with. The thug walked up. His student who had suggested eating humans before in homeroom walked up, a smug smirk adorning his face as his eyes traveled over Moka's body. "I'm your classmate Saizu Kamiya. Salutations. Please tell me why a beautiful woman like yourself is hanging out with this loser." He reached over and grabbed Tsukun's collar before lifting the human off the ground with ease. "Put him down now," the voice from behind Saizo demanded. "Naruto-kun," Moka cried out upon seeing the blonde had returned. Saizo sneered at him. "And what are you going to?" Saizo suddenly found himself doubling over, forced to drop Tsukun who landed on the ground. Naruto removed his elbow. "I'll do that," he cheekily finished. "Weak dogs like you pick on the weak because they're inadequate. I'll give you one chance to leave and I'll forget this. You little shit. I'll kill you for that," Saizu said, standing up with anger clear in his eyes as he snarled like a wild animal. "Naruto-kun." Moka cried out to Naruto in concern and was about to go to his side when the blonde held up his hand. "I'll be okay Moka-san, just let me handle this," he said as Saizu charged him, only for Naruto to twist and easily avoid Saizu and jammed his elbow into the monster's back, causing him to double over. Before the brown-haired thug could recover, Naruto jammed his foot into Saizu's back and forced him into the ground. "What are you punks waiting for?" Saizu shouted as he struggled against Naruto's foot. Out from around the corner several monsters appeared around the corner. They all either had eye or nose piercings. The first was rather short and slightly beefy with arms that looked too large for his body. The second was the tallest of them with beady little eyes and a shaved head, and the last of them had black eyelashes, but badly dyed blonde hair. They all charged the blonde at once only for an invisible force to send them flying into the walls of the school with a bone-crushing thud. I hate thugs like yourself. Preying on those who can't defend themselves and would force themselves on women. He dug his foot harder into Saizu's struggling back. Rumor has it you were sent here to be straightened out and that you raped several human women. Ah. So what humans are trash? Saizu was cut off as Naruto lifted his foot and stomped down on his back. The only trash I see is you, he coldly remarked. How does it feel to be so weak and helpless? Not even able to raise a finger to protect yourself. Hurts doesn't it? The same terror your victims felt I bet. Naruto spat down on him. Let this be a lesson to all of you, he shouted out, well aware of all the students who were attracted to the commotion, not so subtlety watching what was going on. If any of you even think of approaching Moka or anyone else I consider a friend with impure intentions I will break you. He remarked, the last part he emphasized while looking down on Saizu, removing his food. He began making his way over to Moka and Sukun when Saizu pushed himself to his knees. You bastard, I'll make you pay. His muscles started bulging and he grew taller and taller. He was a hideous being, his skin an ugly pale beige, he had spikes growing out of his shoulders, and his finger became plated and clawed. His eyes had turned a dark green with slits. I hoped I wouldn't have to do this, but you've left me no choice, this is my real form, a monstral orc. His tongue zipped out of his mouth and towards Naruto's throat, with the intent to snap his neck only for the blonde to quickly spin and yank out a kunai ramming it up at the tip of the tongue, causing a cut in Saizu to howl in pain. Bastard. Die. The monstral orc charged him only for Naruto to disappear. What the? Saizu looked around only for the sound of chirping birds to fill his ears, and then a hand plunged through his back and through his stomach. Cry of 1000. And with that a powerful electric current erupted and sent several thousand volts of lightning energy course through the monster. Holy hell, Mizore. Did you see that? One monster asked another seafoam green-haired monster. This Uzumaki is rather interesting. Naruto removed his hand and shook off the blood that coated his arm. Normally I'm not so messy, but you don't deserve a quick defeat. Just stay down, you can't win. At this point it was all pointless. Naruto-kun, Moka softly stated as she met eyes with the blonde. A mixture of emotions was building up inside of her. Some small part of her was frightened at the brutality of what she just witnessed, another part was filled with curiosity, as she couldn't help but wonder how he could keep himself calm when doing such things, and even another part was attracted to the powerful, confident, yet kind-hearted young man who seemed intent on caring about those who were weak, which considering how vampires or most monsters with power treated those beneath them, was a mystery that piqued her interest. Stop this nonsense at once. An older classmate said as he came upon the sight. He was a bespectacled young man who smelled like a dog, had sharp eyes and a vaguely canine look about him. Some of the students began whispering in fear and words like safety commission and Kaya were brought up at once. Kamiya, I am not surprised. He said before looking around at all the witnesses. It was the first day of a new semester and Minato didn't feel like dealing with endless reports. Who is the one who started this incident? Numerous students immediately answered and blamed Saizu. Kamiya, Saizu will be brought into discipline measures. Be warned, those caught engaging in rule breaking will be severely dealt with. Minato said as he turned a stern gaze to Naruto and used his palm to adjust his glasses. Saizu apparently wasn't one to give up easy, tried to get up, covering his torso where he was injured, only to have his face struck by Inugato's palm with enough force it would dislocate the neck of a normal human's head. Naruto-kun, let's go, Moka urged the blonde away, pulling at his arm to which the blonde reluctantly agreed. With Saizu dealt with he didn't see a reason to stay around. Managing to lose the students the three of them came a stop in front of the school's greenhouse. You two alright? Naruto asked now that he was convinced they were alone. Yeah, I'm fine. Moka answered, finally allowing herself to breath. I'm fine. And thanks for that, Naruto. Sukun said as he turned to look at the blonde. I don't let people mess with my friends. Sazio won't be doing anything like that again. Why? Sukun asked, getting inquisitive looks from the other two. Why are you two being so nice to me? I mean I couldn't even defend myself. I'm a no one. He slid down against the wall and covered his head. I'm just worthless. Don't say things like that, Sukun-san. Moka said, surprising the human. No one is worthless. You should never think or feel that way. It's just maybe your strength is not in fighting, but in other things. You really think so? The vampire nodded. Of course I do. Moka-chan's right, not everyone is cut out for fighting. Not like a human can do much against a monster anyway. Naruto remarked with a casual shrug. Sukun's face turned pale with fear. You know. Yeah, don't worry about it though, dismissively waved his hand. Considering you looked like you were about to die in class earlier, I kind of figured out what was going on. What happened with Saizo confirmed it when you didn't try to transform to save yourself. We won't tell anyone if you decide to state Sukun-san, but you're going to have to learn how to defend yourself. Moka noted. She then turned to Naruto. As for you, she threw her arms around Naruto. I never thanked you for earlier. You felt uncomfortable. All those looks and glances, he said as Moka paused for a moment before realizing what Naruto was referring to. I had to let them know their place. They can look but not touch unless you want me to scare them away from looking as well. He playfully added before wrapping his arms around her to return the gesture. Like Moka-chan said, if you're willing to stay I might be willing to help you get stronger. It's something you have to decide for yourself. Sukun found himself in a conundrum. On one hand this academy was insane, it was filled with monsters, but on the other hand he had finally made friends. 2 friends who didn't treat him like he was a nobody. The hug between them soon came to an end. You don't have to answer now, but quite frankly I'm interested in seeing more of the school. Naruto suggested. Realizing he didn't need to make a decision now, Sukun decided to follow his 2 new friends around the school and see if he might be willing to give this a shot after all. Naruto sat peacefully in the room as the rays of the sun shined into the room. The dorm was a nice room, square 20 by 18 feet. It was enough to fit a nice size bed, a desk with a single chair, a fridge, a dresser for clothing and a microwave. Because the walls of the room had apparently been freshly painted before his arrival, thanks to the jackass who had the room before him had a thing for graffiti, he had been using a set of salts that dimmed his sense of smell, as the paint used had fumes that caused his head to ache. Standing up, Naruto walked over the window and opened it only to receive a cold blast of wind, causing him to shiver. While he couldn't smell any stray scent of animals or the plants, the cool sensation of the morning wind brushed against his skin, causing him to shiver slightly. Now wide awake from the blast of cold air, Naruto went into the bathroom and turned the nozzles. Holding his hands together under the running water, he leaned over and splashed his face a few times before reaching out for a towel on the handle and dried his face. Getting dressed, Naruto walked out of the room and outside as the cold air hit him full force once more. For whatever reason the cold air seemed a lot more chiller than what the weather reports predicted. Maybe some sort of water or ice monster had screwed around in the area and this was the aftermath. So with that Naruto entered the main building and of course Moka was being mobbed by her ever-growing fan club. Wow, she's gorgeous. A random student exclaimed excitedly. What a sight. Another rather excited student yelled. I love you. Please go out with me. Naruto couldn't help but sigh in annoyance. Wherever they went boys were endlessly complimenting Moka's beauty. Bubbly, kind, and beautiful made up Moka, but what did any of them actually know about her? They fawned over her beauty and didn't even bother to get to know her. No, they act like horny and shameless apes that crowded her and followed her without relent. The poor girl was probably never going to get much peace from these drooling idiots. Such much for being beasts of legends and mythical creatures, they acted no more than the stock and bland characters of the typical harem anime. Hey Moka-chan, he greeted the girl with a wave who was trying to weave herself through the wave of boys. To anyone who actually bothered to look, it was obvious she was uncomfortable with the attention the mob was giving her. Spotting him, she smiled and immediately rushed over. Naruto-kun, how are you this morning? My morning was okay. He simply told her with a shrug, ignoring the sneers and death glares from the other student. Okay, she said, taking a whiff of his scent and repressing the urge to shudder. Naruto-kun, she began, then immediately leaned in and sunk her fangs into his neck. At the sight of Moka biting him, all the other boys let out a jealous groan, along with more than a few making death threats against the blonde. When Moka finally let go of him, she looked absolutely content. Sorry, it's just because your aroma is so good, I couldn't help myself. Thanks for the treat. She said, flashing a cheerful grin. You know, you can just ask instead of just leaping right in and biting me. Though I really don't have words to describe that tingling sensation. He said, massaging the bite marks he knew would visibly vanish in a few minutes. Sorry Naruto, it's just that your blood is so delicious, she said, then smiled. Yeah, well, you should really ask before you take a bite. I mean, you never know when I might have an illness or if someone poisons me, and I would hate for you to get sick because of it. Moka could feel herself swooning slightly at Naruto's concern for her. Well, I would just drink from a pack then and nurse Naruto-kun back to help. Handy striper outfit and all? He asked with an impish grin. Naruto? Moka exclaimed, her face going red. She was about to chastise the blonde when she remembered it was almost time for her next class. Where's Sukun-san? He would usually show up by now. He's still resting off the Shinju fruit I gave him. Naruto replied with a shrug. A small frown formed on Moka's face. You know it probably wasn't a good idea to give him so a big one. Let's face it, an ordinary human, no matter how gifted, isn't going to become strong enough to handle himself against the type of monsters that go here. The idea of it is laughable at best, and the only thing he'll be able to learn in such a short amount of time would be how to run away. Once his body recovers, he'll be able to do much more with chakra than any amount of training could help him do. Anyway, we should head to class. After break let's meet at the usual spot, okay? Okay. Moka responded with a nod and smile. So far the day was carrying out like normal. Done with his classes for the day, Naruto began making his way to the usual spot. Someone please help. A soft pleading voice echoed throughout the school grounds. Naruto stopped as he started to focus for the origin of the noise. Someone please, the voice called out a little louder as Naruto followed the origin of it until he was finally able to connect the voice to a face. The person in question was a young blue-haired girl wearing a yellow sleeveless sweatshirt of some kind instead of the green school outfit and miniskirt. Her hairstyle was up with a red ribbon and her pose looked rather seductive despite the fact she seemed to be in trouble. Well, considering her impressive endowment, she really would be in some sort of trouble if someone else found her. The girl in question was sitting underneath a tree looking up at him with this vulnerable expression. "Help me, please," she called to him weakly. "Please lend me a hand. I just suddenly started to feel ill." She held a hand out to him. Of course, he carefully helped her up to her feet. "Can you stand up? We should get you to the infirmary." "Thank you very much," she said gratefully. "I've always had a weak body," she answered as seemed to sway a bit. My chest just started hurting suddenly." Without warning, she seemed to pitch forward and collapse into his arms. "My chest feels like it's going to burst. It helps if you'll just hold me close for a bit, please," she asked softly, a pleading look forming in her eyes. Holy hell, her freests are so huge and soft. He thought, wrapping an arm around her waist. She looked up at him with those dazzling, hypnotic shade of violet pools that where her eyes appeared to gaze into his soul. "My name is Kurumu. Please be a good friend to me, okay?" "Hi," he replied with a gulp. There was definitely something different about this girl. It reminded him of something he heard about once, but for the life of him he couldn't remember whose action she reminded him of. He was unaware that at the moment Moka had come back for him and saw what looked like a lover's embrace and left without a word. But Kurumu, who could side of the Pinkette, smirked in victory. With that, Kurumu then let her magic wash over Naruto. Charm. Kurumu expected for Naruto to attack her like a lust-driven animal, but surprisingly enough his body only shivered and an edge of hunger filled his eyes. His breathing became heavy and he reached out and gently cupped her cheek. It seemed like electricity surged through her body from his touch. Kurumu had to suppress the urge to giggle in delight. If there was one thing that Kurumu loved besides baking, it was winning. His hand slid down her cheek and accidentally fell upon her freest, causing her to moan and her cheeks to flare. "What is this feeling?" Kurumu wondered as her heart began to beat in her chest. Her lips slightly parted as she found them moving despite her mind being blank. "Can I kiss you?" he asked as his face hovered a few inches from hers. "Yes," she said breathlessly as Naruto leaned over and captured her lips. His arms shifting around her form as Kurumu gave into the sensations of his touch. Kurumu Kurono was a succubus, one of the beautiful and highly voluptuous creatures that were caricatures of lust. She was in search of her destined one like most of her species and would not let anyone stand in her way. Though it seemed one boy in particular had not only ignored but resisted her advances. She remembered, thinking back to the first day she had troubles even then with her plan. Using the moves her mother and auntie taught her, she walked through the crowd of students, sashaying her hips and giving her freests a slight but very noticeable toss every now again with her steps to make sure they bounced healthily, drawing attention of the boys and the ire of the female students. She was beautiful, she knew it, and she used it to her advantage. In mere seconds the boys were nothing more than a mess of groveling and drooling idiots. Pleased with herself, Kurumu looked around the ever-growing harem when one male stuck out. Blonde spiky hair and a charming smile who paid her little to no mind. His eyes though were on the long-haired violet girl with pale skin. Kurumu let out a growl and narrowed her eyes. Before she could form a plan to end the competition, the faculty members began ordering the students inside. With a sigh, Kurumu compassed herself and put on a sweet face as she ordered the boys to go with her to the auditorium. Kurumu was annoyed, but her plan wasn't in too much danger. She could go through all the boys she had and was going to have. What was the off chance that the one boy that didn't fall to her charms happened to be her destined one? Though that quickly got whispered as her pendulous movements and sexy walk was ignored in favor of a rather innocent pink-haired girl who practically had the word innocent tattooed on her face. Akashiya Moka drew in everyone's stares and was constantly showered with praises of beauty, and that began to make Kurumu's skin crawl. She was the one with the nice large freests, with the curvy hips, and whose very species could satisfy men's very whims, so what made the pink-haired girl so special? and the fact she could enslave the hearts of both boys and girls without even trying. The fact that she didn't even try really pissed Kurumu off. So she put her plan together, a little act, and she was able to ensnare the blonde-haired boy that followed Moka around. He seemed rather different from the other boys, and by that he didn't fumble and fluster over Moka endlessly. What really drew her interest were the rumors of him defeating Saizu. While Kurumu never met the monstrel personally, she knew of his reputation, and one or two of the girls from her auntie's club complained about him being forceful with them to the point it borderline assault. Kurumu toyed with the idea of such a powerful and unusual boy being her destined one. A boy that she couldn't so easily wrap around her finger, and if what her mama told her was true, then her destined one would be the one to complete her. And while the boy didn't fall to her charms immediately, she was sure it wasn't going to take long. After all, it only took a wiggle in the hips, and her freaks jiggling, she sauntered down the halls to gain the attention of nearly every hormonal boy. Her little entourage would follow her wherever she went and followed her every step. Kurumu-chan, I love. Kurumu-chan, you're beautiful. Kurumu-chan, is there anything I can do for you? After the first few days it was fun, but after a while it got monotonous. They were nothing more than mindless slaves. Carrying her books, singing her praises, and endless compliments. They followed her down like little puppies waited for orders. Was she so desperate for popularity she overlooked the fact that she wasn't even sure what she was looking for? She knew she was looking for her destined one, but what was her destined one exactly? Besides the special person she was going to spend the rest of her life with. To start a family with. She wanted someone that would love her and be loyal to her. A gentleman that would treat her right, but not only that, was handsome, had a great body, loving to her and the many children they would have. She also wanted someone short and would be a magnificent lover. Someone that would cherish and love her instead of these young boys leering, drooling and being nothing more than bumps on a log. In fact, it seemed like she drew in even more boys than before, but they were just like the rest. Date after date after date, it was the same thing. They all wanted to her as their girlfriend and didn't seem to care about finding out her past or anything like that. Merely suffocating her and not fulfilling her needs or expectation at all. Though of course that would change now. You're such a sweet boy, Naruto-kun. Kurumu cooed, putting emphasis on each syllable. Naruto was walking to class, carrying her books. Well, I have a hard time saying no to a pretty face. He answered her before looking up, his eyes trailing around as if he was looking for them. Not every guy would have asked about my schedule or asked me to hang out with him and a friend. They would usually try to get me alone. She said as she used her finger to trace along his chest. You're a real nice guy who doesn't try to take advantage of me. She said, batting up at him with innocent eyes, pressing her chest against his. There aren't a lot of guys like you left. Kurumu-san listened. Kurumu placed a finger on his lips as she scooted closer on the bench. I think I would really like. She hopped up and plopped down on Naruto's lap, straddling him. A guy like you for a boyfriend. She added as she wrapped her arms around his neck. So you'll have me, won't you? She gently asked as she began moving in towards him, only for him to pull back. I'm sorry, Kurumu-san, but he trailed off, trying to find the words to let her down gently. It's her, isn't it? She asked, her voice just above a hoarse whisper. Without waiting for a confirmation, Kurumu took off, her pride taking over as she refused to lose to Moka after coming so close. Speaking of which, Moka was so lost in her thoughts she didn't notice Kurumu walk up to her and didn't register her presence until she said something. You're a vampire, right? She heard, looking up to see the same blue-haired girl from before. That's at least what the rumors say. Akashiya Moka, Kurumu said as she leapt down from the railing of the staircase and skillfully landed on the ground. You were the one with Naruto earlier, when did you? She was startled, wondering who this girl was and wondering what she wanted. I am the succubus Kurumu Kurono, she interrupted the vampire, appearing in front of her in an instant. I have come to defeat you. Wah, but isn't fighting against the school rules? Moka asked in confusion as she stepped a few steps back. She wasn't a confrontational person by nature, so she hoped to avoid fighting if she could. You're the biggest eyesore to my great plan. Kurumu declared dramatically, pointing at Moka. Lion? Moka echoed, startled by this girl's claims. To make every guy at Academy my love, slave the Yokai Academy transformation plan. It was a perfect plan. I should have entrenched every male with my beauty, but then you came along, she said, pointed in Moka's face. I won't let you get away with this. I'll never lose a battle in feminine charm, so I'll defeat you and steal Naruto away from you to prove I'm better. But what does Naruto-kun have to do with this? He has everything to do with this. Replied with a snarl. He is a likely candidate to be my destined one. The cyan-haired girl added as she continued to glare at the pinkhead. It's no surprise that you aren't aware of the concept. After all, you vampires may look down and sneer other races, but even we succubs can falling in love. The succubi race is dying out, and the only way we can reproduce is with our destined ones. The only one capable of not being bent to the whim of the charm and the only one we can love with all of our hearts. But I'll never be able to find out as long as you stand in my way." Moka couldn't help but be wrought with confusion. Me? But what did I do? She couldn't see why the cyan-haired girl seemed to hate her so much. Just by simply being you draw in boys without trying. Once I find my destined one I could care less about the rest of these lunkheads, but what about all the other girls? Every potential relationship your presence is destroying. Kurumu hypocritically stated, ignoring the fact her own actions of trying to find her destined one was essentially the same thing. And the fact if you really cared about him you wouldn't treat him like a walking blood bank. The accusation hit too close to home as tears filled Moka's eyes as guilt overwhelmed her. The accusations proved too much as Moka retreated, no longer wanting to hear any more of the girl's accusations. "But I won't let you have him. If I take care of you then no one will be in my way." The air suddenly began flowing around with the force of her yaki, resulting in the mirrors of the room to crack and the desks nearby to being blasted away and the dirt of the room gathered by the walls. Suddenly, wings sprouted from the back of her uniform and a tail sprouted from the back of her skirt. Her nails began to lengthen until they became long, elongated blades. Kurumu charged forward, ready to strike down Moka when the sound of Naruto's voice distracted her. "Moka. I won't let you," he said as his hand shot forward and he caught her wrist. Moving his feet so his heels were implanted into the ground he spun and flung her away from the door into a wall. Kurumu let out a pained grunt and quickly recovered as she floated to the sky. "Naruto-kun, can you see I'm doing this for us? What did you do to Moka?" In response to his calm and stern gaze, Kurumu flashed a smile of innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I just told her the truth. You're better off without her." "No, I think I'm better off without you." He countered Kurumu's statement, who reeled back in shock. "What?" she stammered out. "You hurt someone I considered precious and as such you aren't who I thought you were, Kurono-san," he said, shaking off her attempts to charm. "Your magic won't work on me," he said as he noticed something akin to fury formed on her features. "Why?" she said as the angry reflected in her violet eyes. The sweet and seductive girl was no longer standing before him. "What the hell do I have to get your attention? What is it about Moka that you won't even consider looking at me? Am I not beautiful enough? Is there something about me you don't like? What the hell is it that makes her so perfect? I really don't have an answer for you, Kurono-san. Erg. I hate you. You're just like all the others. Trying to deceive and lie to me. I won't let you hurt me anymore." Kurumu snarled as she charged at the blonde. Her fury making her strike sloppy as he swayed to the side, left and right and even ducking under the claws. "Kurono-san, please, I don't want to hurt you." He tried to gently calm her down, but Kurumu wasn't having none of it. "Then I'll fight back," he said as he made hand seals within the fraction of a second before his hand lit ablaze with lightning. It was more of an attempt to scare her than anything as he countered, swiping at her, forcing her on the defensive. Kurumu gracefully moved to the left and right in the air, spinning in circles as Naruto slowly pushed her towards the wall. Though, all the beauty and grace of flight wouldn't mean anything. Her illusions weren't having an effect, and if her claws didn't connect she wouldn't be able to fight back. Though she didn't have to worry about that as Naruto had popped up behind her and before she could react, he tightly formed his arms around her and suplex her of all things. Kurumu didn't know what was worse. The unusual and just plain humiliating way he took her down or the fact she seemingly failed her duty to her race. Kurumu, he tried to say something, anything, but she cut him off. "Shut up." Kurumu yelled back. "You Naruto. I opened my heart to you and trusted you. I thought you were different from all the other boys. And I was beginning to think you could have been the one, my chosen one. Yet you shoved me off of you like I was garbage. Like I was some kind of hideous thing. Do you hate me so much?" By this point Kurumu was desperate, she felt a pain she hadn't since her father died. And there was one person because of that pain. Without warning Kurumu lunged at Moka with her claws out, surprising the young woman. She looked like a deer staring at the headlights. But she didn't even need to dodge as Naruto came to her rescue and shoved her out of the way. Naruto's face contorted in pain before the full force of Kurumu's momentum with her poised claws stabbing into gut. "Naruto-kun." Moka exclaimed as she reacted. Seeing Naruto injured finally snapped her out of her sorry state and she reacted. Using the strength she didn't know she shoved Kurumu off of Naruto and sent her flying back. "Look at what you done. You say I'm supposed to be the danger. If you really cared about Naruto-kun you wouldn't hurt him like this. And you tell it's tearing him apart hurting you?" Kurumu and Naruto were both surprised at the intensity of her words. That the same girl who was so close to tears earlier was fiercely lashing out at the succubus. Kurumu stepped back, the heel of her shoes stepping upon a piece of shattered glass from one of the windows that fell apart during the commotion of the battle. Trail of tears seeped down from Kurumu's eyes as guilt filled her. "I'm sorry," she whispered before taking out through one of the clear windows. Kurumu kept on flying and flying until she couldn't fly anymore. She finally came to a stop and made her way to her dorm. Her face was stained with tears and she was confused. So much she let her guard down and was unable to avoid the strike that broke one of her ribs and sent her sprawling to the ground. "Alright suku slut. You're going to pay for stealing my boyfriend from me." A rather tall yet attractive monster with short black hair backed up by two other girls. Back with Naruto and Moka, he was doing his best to cheer up the latter. "Moka-chan, no matter what you are and always will be one of the most important individuals in my life," Naruto murmured as his hand brushed against Moka's now red-tinted cheek. Naruto turned to look in the direction Kurumu went with a forlorn look. "Do you want to go after her, don't you?" Moka asked as Naruto looked down at her downcast face. Moka then felt his finger under her chin and lift up her face when Naruto's lips were pressed against hers. Moka's eyes widened and her cheeks darkened as she moaned into the kiss. She felt herself grow a bit lightheaded as the kiss broke with a tender lip-parting smack. "She's my friend, but you Moka, I still care for you. I still wish to explore the nature of my relationship with you more, but that doesn't mean I can abandon a friend of mine who's in pain. I hope you can understand that." Speaking of pain, Kurumu found herself in an unfavorable position. The last thing she had even thought or considered was incurring the ire and jealousy of very violent and possessive female monsters. And now she found herself cornered by three angry female monsters. The first was rather large and was fern green with bioluminescent scales and pale yellow eyes. The tall and dark hair girl had transformed into a sea monster with webbed fingers and toes and sharp yellow teeth and smelled of the sea. "You she slut." As expected of a succubus. "You're no better than vampires, but instead of looking down on the rest of us you still are men without a second thought except for satisfying your unselfish whims. You tempted him from me, my sweet and loving mate. If I get rid of you then everything will be okay." "Less talking, more action, Shelky," the other monster insisted. Like Nekonom, this Yokai was a Nekomata as well. She had olive-colored hair with pistachio-colored eyes. She was rather small, about 5'1" with two tails swaying behind her. And the third of them was a female mummy, about 5'6" and being composed of nothing but bandages in a humanoid voice. "I won't let jealous and ugly creatures such as yourselves get in the way of my plan," Kurumu hissed as she changed into her natural state. Before she could attack, the mummy's bandage sprouted from its body and restrained her arms and legs. "Let me go," she shouted as she shrugged against the confines. "Poor little succubus. If you spent less time patrolling for beep and training in your useless craft, you might have stood a chance," the catgirl malicious taunted as an emerald flame ignited in the palm of her right hand. "I got an idea, girls. Let's give her a little makeover." But before the catgirl could attack, a sharp burst of wind shot forward and slashed the mummy's bandages, freeing Kurumu. "Jealousy is such an ugly thing, so I'll say this now. Leave, and you won't be harmed," Naruto warned the female monsters with a deadly edge to his voice. "Naruto," Kurumu said with a pant. "And Moka," she added upon seeing the pink-haired girl. "Why? You're my friend, Kurumu-chan. If I can help I will," Naruto said as the sea monster snarled in outrage. "This is no business of yours. Leave before we do away with you as well," she warned as she fired a burst of poison mist to scare the blonde away, only for the mist to spread away and from the two by an invisible barrier. 3-on-3 sounds fair, don't you think?" Naruto asked with a grin as his hand casually shot back and clipped off Moka's rosary. The area soon began to flood with energy that easily dwarfed the other three monsters combined. Kurumu as well was caught by surprise despite the fact she was aware that Moka was a vampire. As for Moka, her eyes had immediately glazed and warped when the rosary was released. Her green eyes turned red, the pupils dilated and became slits as her form was coated in demonic energy. Her chest expanded as the top button of her uniform flown off, revealing some cleavage, and her face aged slightly as her vibrant pink hair paled until it shined silver. The abrupt flow of Yokai began to fade and seep from her, giving off a cold storm, yet shining like a blaze. "Unreal," Kurumu uttered, her eyes were wide in shock. "That power, that beauty. No wonder I never stood a chance." "A vampire?" the Nekomata screeched in outrage. "Damn it, Selkie, what did you get us into? She can't beat all three of us at once. Attack her before she attacks us," the sea monster shouted as she fired a burst of poison only for Moka to have disappeared from sight. On second thought, Naruto spoke from Kurumu's side, startling the succubus. "Moka is more than enough. You think the likes of you can stack against me? You are nothing." Moka appeared by the sea monster's side, her leg connected against the side of the creature's head, sending her flying into a wall and knocking her unconscious. Gracefully she swayed to the side as she easily dodged the bandages from the mummy and flipped over a burst of flame from the Nekomata. "Know your place." With a series of acrobatic flips she took to the air and extending her legs as her feet imprinted into the faces to the two monster with enough brutal force to undo some of the mummy's head wrap and knock out some of the Nekomata's teeth as they were sent to the ground unconscious. When that was done, Moka turned a stern gaze to Kurumu, who shirked back in fear. "Moka," Naruto said, moving in between the vampire and the succubus. "Are you really going to protect that frail egoistical woman, she who would have done anything to keep us apart?" she asked with a hint of a snarl. "Just calm down," he spoke tenderly as he cupped her cheek. "Nothing will take me from you," he assured her as he waited to see what her next move would be. "I will be keeping my eye on you, succubus," Moka warned as she took the Rosario from Naruto's hand. Being overwhelmed by today's events, Kurumu ignored Naruto calling out to her as she fled to clear her mind of everything that happened. At night, Naruto decided to turn in early after today's crazy development. "Hey there, I've been waiting for you." Naruto froze as he flicked on the lights. Sure enough was the beautiful and busty Kurumu in a clear white see-through gown wearing a black lace bra and panties. "So how did you get in here?" "I flew in through the window." She answered his question like it was obvious, and to be fair, considering she revealed her form to him no more than a few hours ago, it kind of was. Naruto turned to the window. "I knew I forgot to booby-trap something." "Naruto-kun is definitely a funny guy," she replied with a shy. Why do you protect me?" She couldn't help but wonder what his deal was. She was helpless earlier today and he came to her rescue. He had protected her from Moka as well and seemed intent on being nice to her. What was this all about?" he asked as he sat down on the bed. He attentively listened there as Kurumu fully went into detail about her thought process and her motivation for her harem plan. I understand if you don't wish to have anything to do with me," she said after she finished telling him about her attempts to charm him. "I don't hate or blame you, Kurumu," he replied as Kurumu looked up in shock. "It's simply your species' nature. I know all about losing oneself to instinct, so it would be hypocritically for me to hate you over something that's a part of you," he said as he caressed her cheek. "You're a beautiful girl, Kurumu." "How?" she softly asked. "How can you be so forgiving?" "Because I can see it in your eyes, the loneliness you feel. I also know the stories as well and your species' plight. The succubuses are a dying breed and you have a duty, don't you? I can't say that I'm your destined one, and I can tell you now I'm in a harem situation of my own. I don't want to hurt you or lead you on, so you deserve to know that. If you want me, can give things a try." Naruto's understanding words struck a chord in Kurumu as her eyes began to tear up. A smile formed on her face as she threw her arms around Naruto's neck. "I'm so sorry, Naruto, I promise you won't regret giving me a chance." Kurumu had to restrain herself from wanting to claim his lips right then and there in a soul-searing kiss. Naruto wrapped his hands around Kurumu, resting his chin on her head. "I'm sure of it. Now come on now, dry up those tears. I have to get ready for bed, so maybe you should go," he suggested as Kurumu sniffed and wiped away the tears, a small blush forming on her face. "Maybe, you and I can share a bed," she stammered slightly as he rose an eyebrow. "Well, I am a succubus, Naruto-kun. I'm a succubus. My kind thrive for touch. We live for sex. So why don't you indulge your desires with me? I can be anything you want. I'll do anything you want. I can be your mistress or you can be my master." "Kurumu," he said, shaking his head. "I think we should get to know each other a little better. I know I said we should give things a try, but let's not jump in the sack already. Besides, no matter how tempted I am right now, I just can't." "Is it because of her?" Kurumu asked, worry forming on her face. "Kurumu, there is no reason for you to be trying to compete against Moka. As long as that remains your driving force, you'll end up doing something you regret. The thing is, I know for a fact no straight man, and even a few women, would turn down your offer. That's just the thing. I'm not weak-willed like most. Trust me, trying not to jump you right now is definitely a tough battle. I'm not saying no forever, just no for right now. Tell me, Kurumu, are you still a virgin?" "Well, yeah, unless you want to change that, of course," she purred in his ear. "You're a persistent one, I'll give you that. Look, I like both you and Moka, and I'm not opposed to polyamory or whatever it's called. I know some species practice it for the sake of their bloodlines or clan, so I'm asking you for now, just be patient." "So you don't want me as a lover?" she asked, trying to gauge the blonde's exact feelings for her. "For the time being, Kurumu-chan. This isn't just about your feelings, right? Please consider mine as well. It takes more than just beauty and power for me to want to have a meaningful relationship with someone. If I hadn't gotten to know you, I wouldn't be opposed to a one-night stand, but now that I see you as someone I care about, I don't want to cheapen it by having it be so meaningless. Now I'll walk you back to your room and we'll see each other some other time, okay?" "Okay," she answered as they stood up from his bed. "Naruto," she began, hesitated slightly. "Do you think I'm beautiful? I mean not my freaks, but me?" she asked, wondering if he could grow to really like her. "You're definitely beautiful, Kurumu-chan, as that light blue hair and those eyes of yours are enchanting." "Thank you," she answered, looking down at the floor as her cheeks began to redden. "Let's just keep what happened tonight between you and me, okay?" he asked as she brightened up. "Okay, thank you, Naruto." She told him as they left his room and entered the hallway as they made their way to her room. It was the start of another day as Nekonim began announcing to the class today's event. This academy's goal is to train monsters to adapt to human society. Just as I've been saying all along, she energetically droned on about what the students were expected to do until, so that means starting today, you're all going to take up club activities. Understand? Everyone will participate in club activities. Everyone please visit a lot of groups and decide which one you want to enter. She said before casually reminding everyone to visit the newspaper club since she was the advisor. The trio began looking around and was amazed by the mass of students just swarming around them. There were stands, signs, all with one purpose. To try and recruit people into their club. Moka and Sukun had to hold their ears when a random student with a microphone began babbling incoherent words that he was speaking in a different language. Trust me, don't join that club. Naruto warned them, only partially understanding some of what was said, but know full and well that it wasn't something his rather meek companions would do well in. Naruto-kun. There you are. Kurumu squealed as landed on Naruto's back, her face smushing against him as she affectionately rubbed her face against his cheek. Hello to you too, Kurumu, he said, clearing his throat and trying to repress the effect she was having on his body. Kurumu-san. Naruto-kun and I were having a discussion. Moka fumed as she tried to restrain the urge to grab and fling the busty girl into one of the booths. She then blanked and wondered where that violent thought came from. Kurumu though ignored her as her legs hooked around his waist. Many students looked on with jealous glares. Hey Naruto-kun, what club should we join? Moka asked him as the blonde seemed more interesting and staring off into space than any of the clubs. The cooking club of course, Kurumu answered as her arms hooked around Naruto's neck. We would have great fun, right Naruto-kun? Hey. How do you even know Naruto likes cooking? Moka argued as Naruto sighed, taking a moment to collect his thoughts. Come on girls, don't be rude, what about Sukun-san? Why don't we hear his suggestion? Sukun suddenly found himself being hit with the glares of two monster girls. Picking one was agreeing to certain doom by the hands of the others. I am fine with whatever the group decides. He replied with a nervous chuckle. Our Naruto grumbled under his own breath, despite the fact he was trying to throw Sukun under the proverbial bus to save his own skin. I mean, there is so many, how do we choose? You're right, Moka nodded, it's too early to decide. Let's visit lots of clubs and see what they have to offer. She said excitedly. If that's what you want. Kurumu added as she hopped off and grabbed onto Naruto's left arm. She then sent Moka a look that conveyed a challenge to which if the pink-haired girl grabbing Naruto's other arm meant anything she accepted. Sukun didn't know whether he envied Naruto having the affection of such pretty girls or feel sorry for him for all the potential headaches that would come. As they walked down the crowded hall, Naruto could hear the prattle of the boys who happened to notice Moka and Kurumu walking side by side with him. They all gave tribute to the girl's beauty and cursed Naruto's name. So far, they had found none they wanted. Earlier a creepy man had pulled them over and asked to take photos of Moka in the nude. Naruto promptly decked the kid so hard in the mouth for boldly asking his girlfriend that the resulting injury left the boy without any teeth. This was one of those times that Moka did not admonish Naruto for being violent, but she didn't want to encourage him either. It wouldn't look good if he ended up beating up half the school before the semester was over. The guy at the chemistry stall offered to make love potions with Moka and Kurumu. Then there was another club who wanted the girls joined to practice their massage technique, and even an animal club. He didn't want to think about it anymore. Hey you, would you like to join the swimming club? Naruto turned around and saw a beautiful woman in a two-piece swimsuit. She was, oddly enough, wearing a long-sleeved button-up shirt over herself without it actually being buttoned. I'm the swimming club captain, Ichinis Tamao. Then as she turned to Naruto, her face held a lascivious look. Why don't we swim together? The light ocean blue-haired girl asked. Before Naruto could gather his thoughts, the woman had somehow managed to grab both of his hands and hold them in hers. The swimming club is all female, she began as she moved one hand to Naruto's face, stroking his cheek. The ladies will end up paying lots of special attention to the boys who join our club. Moka then quietly added, maybe we shouldn't join this club. Naruto's eyes widened and he nodded in understanding. If there was anything he could remember about lore, then it was that vampires had a weakness to water. Sorry, we're not really interested. He turned down the girl while trying to be as kind as possible. Tamao watched as the quartet walked away with a scowl. She was not one to give up so easily, and whoever this guy was, he must have been something to charm both Akashiya Moka and Kurumu. I'm not giving up so easily, Uzumaki Naruto. If I can't get you at the pool, I'll hunt you down and get you another time. They continued to trail down the hallway past the various banners and groups. They eventually made it all the way to the end of the hall where a fold-out table was set up with a small sign. It read, Culture Club, and sitting at the table was a young woman. She looked to be about 17 with peach skin complexion, violet hair and slender frame. While tall she was no Amazon and wore a white ribbon in her hair. So some of the cute little juniors came to visit little Almi. I'm Amaya Kuchikoro. She greeted with a cheeky grin. And this is the culture club, gesturing her arm around she pointed to all the impressive displays of art. They were a beautiful collection of penciled images indicating the various forms of the other monsters in mid-transformation. Oh wow, Kurumu found herself entranced by a succubus number in mid-transformation, her modesty covered by her wing as she wore a saucy smile. It was a mixture of haunting and beauty that spoke to her. Naruto glanced around at each of the images and nearly found himself breathless at what had been poured into the paintings. You made all these. Art is what I do and it's what I love. I have to do something to pass the time considering it's well, just me. 2-year dry streak, wish I never started this club. So it's you. Moka couldn't help but feel sad for the girl. To be alone without any friends. Yeah, I formed this club because I thought it would bring some of the students together, you know. Get to know each other, study our cultures and bond. I soon found out that my basic outline was too much work for most of these lazy sacks, they rather pick easy clubs that loaf around once a week. Considering that you can join more than one club provided your hours don't conflict, there's really no excuse, you know. The cultural club sounds kinds of fun, Sukun noted. Considering every other club has bang everyone in this group but Sukun on the brain, I think our choice is obvious. Naruto casually remarked. Did you have to put it like that, Naruto-san? Sukun lamented with a dry sigh. You get respect once you rise up from the level of scrub. So when would we be expected to attend? Moka's interest was drawn in. It did sound a little challenging but worthwhile. We meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays along with alternating Saturdays. We also meet on the Fridays prior to any holiday relevant to the species of a group members in which they have a few days to prepare an optional presentation about their species. So how about it, everyone? Want to join? It was pretty much a unanimous decision. That did not stop some individuals for wishing to pursue members of their group. Akashiya, radiant flower of the academy, won't you be mine? The person who approached the vampire with a bouquet was an older classman with green eyes and ink black hair, which he kept back with a red headband. He wore the standard male uniform, except for the tie, and his shirt is open a little, which shows a wolf head pendant he wears around his neck. Who are you? Moka had been stunned beyond words, and not in a good way either. Morioka Janae, but you can call me Jin-kun or lover. Sukun immediately took one large step to the side and began to slowly back away, not making any subtle movements, lest he wants to be caught in the draft of Naruto's movements. I am sorry but I'm not interested. Kurumu, who was drinking in every second of Moka's discomfort, was the unfortunate victim of the updraft of Naruto's movement, which launched her several stories into the air. Thank God she was a succubus or that would not have ended well. Come on baby, we're perfect for each other. And what makes you say that? Both parties had been cut off by the sudden arrival. And who are you supposed to be? Her one and only, a sharp look reflected in his eyes. You claim she is perfect, what makes her perfect? A smile did not falter from the upperclassman. This was the perfect time to score brownie points. Her breathtaking beauty, of course. The best of the best, no one can compare to her, not even Kurumu. Up yours buddy. Said succubus claimed as she finally made her descent back to earth. Any moment now it would stop spinning. The shallow cretin who only sees a prize. You know nothing about Moka. You don't know her thoughts. You don't know what she excels in. You don't know her desires. Only you know is what you can see. You might impress any flock of empty-headed girls on this campus, but Moka is not one of those empty-headed girls. And what makes you so fit to be her one and only as you claim? He challenged, and with that Naruto quickly and thoroughly shut down the argument. We met years ago. Her favorite drink second to my blood is tomato juice. She adores kittens but goes insane over mice. Her favorite flowers are lilies. She dislikes extremely spicy foods. Her favorite kind of music is jazz, and she absolutely hates country music. Do I really need to go on or have I proven my point? Naruto had made sure to let enough of his chakra to flow out to emphasize the point he was trying to make. Hey, no need to be hostile. I get the message. Despite the demeanor this Janae was displaying, something was inkling at the back of Naruto's mind. If you ever decide to trade up from your puppy dog to a real beast, just come find me babe. He sent an infatuated wink towards Moka before he took off. Let it go, just let it go. Naruto told himself as he turned to Moka and was surprised when she placed a sudden kiss on his cheek. A faint blush adorned her cheeks. No words had to be exchanged between them. Naruto. Kurumu's sudden and heated exclamation drew his attention, and she did not look too happy. Ah crap. If Moka is to be your girlfriend, then I demand to be your mistress. She punctuated with a pointing gesture. The incredulousness of what just happened had caught Naruto off guard so badly he had only one way to respond. Okay. Yahoo! Kurumu of course happily tackled Naruto's face boop first. Naruto was able to maneuver at least his left eye out of what was arguably the third greatest way to die, to see Moka was glaring up at him something fierce. Something was telling him this was going to be a reoccurring theme. Oh well, at least with just two of them it would be manageable at least. In the outskirts of the dead forest of monster Gakuen, two students were up bright and early. For one such as yourself, even with chakra, you won't be able to gain upperclassman level strength without time, which is why we will be focusing on these points: speed, evasion, counters, holds and if necessary even weapons. Naruto said, blurring into motion. Sukun abruptly found his upper body being forced forward a little with his arm clenched almost painfully behind his back. The kunai was resting at his throat. Your body is a weapon and the clothes you wear the holster. You're going to need to build up your reserves before you can even hope to learn the basic jutsu. Sukun edged away from the blade at his throat. Naruto released his hold. Naruto-senai he had completely let his guard down, leading to him being swept off his feet with a kick and landing on the hard ground. He clutched the back of his head in pain. Being indecisive will kill you. You cannot hesitate. This isn't some normal or mundane high school. You aren't going to get lucky and coast by. Like locusts, the students here will sense your weakness and snuff it out. This is why you're here. Every move, whether it be a counter or hold, should result in your opponent either stabbed or immobilized. This morning we'll see you attacked repeatedly, and we'll see how long it'll take you to adapt and start being able to dodge my strikes. During the next 2 hours, Sukun had learned a few things. Like how to dodge and then how to dodge faster. And why average guys like him never fought. He also learned where to fall to minimize the pain. Somehow Naruto interpreted the words "I can't take any more of this" to mean that it was time to get into the weapons portion of the training. And as if some deity from above heard the inner pleas of Anno, Moka showed up. Naruto, there you are. Morning. Ah, morning Moka-chan. After the greeting, Moka had latched onto Naruto's neck to enjoy some quick breakfast. Moka soon pulled away, content and satisfied. Where's mine? Naruto asked with a pout as Moka simply blinked and looked at him with a curious gaze. What? She asked him, wondering what he meant by that. My little treat, of course. Then again, maybe I should just show you. He decided with a mischievous grin as he gently clasped Moka's cheeks. He leaned in and captured her lips in a sweet peck that caused butterflies to flitter through the vampire's stomach and her cheeks to darken. The kiss soon ended with one more playful peck from the blonde. You didn't think I was going to start the day without a kiss from my cute girlfriend, did you? Moka couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. This whole dating thing was new to her and she wasn't quite sure how to act in terms of people. Naruto, not while people are watching. She replied in a cute flustered tone. Utsukun. He's not people. Naruto replied with a playful nice. Be nice, she playfully swatted his shoulder. Anyway, I hope I'm not interrupting anything. I need Tsukun-sen's help with something, but if you two are still training. The look in Tsukun's eyes was very telling. Help me please, I can't last much longer. Well, I suppose since this is the first day I'll go easy on him and you can have him. Reveling in joy, Tsukun had made one step before his body gave out and he collapsed on the ground. Looking up from the body, Naruto noticed his girlfriend giving him a stern gaze. What? Her silent stare continued to permeate. I did go easy on him. I didn't use projectiles or anything. At least I haven't put him in any life-threatening situations, which was how I was pretty much taught. It's still pretty mean for you to train Tsukun-sen to such a state. She countered as Naruto put on his best apologetic face. That's why I have you, my sweet and understanding Moka-chan, who keeps me grounded. He pulled her into a hug and breathed in her scent. Unbeknownst to Moka, he had another reason for doing that besides feeling her warmth in his arms. Someone or something was nearby and watching them. True to Naruto's observation, it was none other than Jin who was looking at the two of them with narrowed eyes. More specifically, he was looking at the arms that were wrapped around Moka's waist. If he was going to get anywhere, he was going to need to get intel on the enemy. But that Jin, he put on his best smile and began interrogating whoever he could find that had any information on the blonde. Excuse me ladies, but would you mind if I ask you a question? He asked politely. A group of girls had turned to him. One, a senior, rudely asked him, what do you want? I was wondering what you could tell me about the blonde hanging around Moka-san. He asked. The vampire? She asked, and upon Jin nodding she continued, seems like the two are sweethearts or something. He's definitely protective of her, seeing how he always chases off any boy that tries to hit on her, the senior remarked as she ran her long fingernails through her thick curls. He got into a fight earlier with that Sato guy and beat him quite easily, a spectacled wearing blue-haired girl answered. He seems really strong, not to mention everyone is saying that he was being paraded around by Kurumu not too long ago like he was her boyfriend. She added, causing Jin's eyes to widen. Bit by bit everyone had been quick to say what they heard and saw. Yeah, she's always leaving hickeys on his neck. For a freshman he's brave. He doesn't even so much as flinch when he walks by upperclassmen. Dude's like really scary. They say if he looks at you with a sharp look it feels like he paralyzes you like some sort of spellcaster. Jin began to grit his teeth. The school beauty Akashiya Moka and now popular freshman Kurumu as well. What was so special about him that he managed to snag two goddesses like that? One way or another he was going to snag the school beauties away from this freshman. Speaking of said succubus, she was comfortably sitting in the lap of her boyfriend. Her head rested on his shoulder as one arm rested around her waist. This warmth and comfort was unlike anything Kurumu had experienced during her hunt for her destined one. The affection Naruto was showing for her was out of his desire to do so without any manipulation from the succubus. Even the fact they were in the library didn't matter. Naruto gently shook the succubus. "Kurumu, wake up. I need to get up." Kurumu stretched. Naruto, that was wonderful. You managed to leave my body all tingly." Many of the nosy students who had been gawking at them couldn't help but blush at the salacious tone Kurumu had been using. "Maybe next time we can do this somewhere more comfortable, say my room." Naruto ignored the whispers that were going around. "My word, Kurumu-chan, at least buy me dinner first before expecting me to put out." Seeing Kurumu's face lit up along with her ensuing stammer gave Naruto a mental victory he would be carrying for a long time. "Well, I suppose that's not asking for too much," Kurumu softly mused as her cheeks were still burning pink. "For right now I'll settle for lunch though." Kurumu got up from her comfortable seat and latched onto Naruto's arm. Ignoring the looks and jealous gazes sent in their direction, the couple happily began making their way in the direction of the cafe to grab something to eat and began making small talk. They took a shortcut through one of the class hallways when a door suddenly swinging open caught their attention. They watched with raised brows as a fuming Moka stormed past them without so much as a glance. They looked at the departing girl and then inside seeing Tsukun, who had a red hand print on his right cheek with a laughing Jin next to him. "Tsukun-san, what the hell is going on?" Naruto asked. "Nothing really, this guy just got caught peeking up the Moka-san's skirt," he said before Tsukun could say something. Tsukun was about to say something in his defense, but the temperature in the room suddenly dropped. "Aono, you pervert." Kurumu growled as she glared at the frightened boy. Though Tsukun could care less about the succubus right now, he was in danger of his heart giving out. There was no question about it, he knew how protective Naruto was of Moka, and now he was going to die. Tsukun's fear of course kept him from noticing there was a reason why a foot was currently being embedded in his stomach. Naruto knew full and well Tsukun didn't exhume the confidence of the sliminess to do something like peep on a girl like Moka. If he did, he at least had enough of a self-preservation instinct to not do it to Moka. Seeing Jin eye up Kurumu, it wasn't hard to figure out how someone like Tsukun and the ever-trusting Moka could be manipulated into a situation, but he wouldn't say anything, not just yet. "Kurumu-chan, can you do me a favor and go make sure Moka-chan is alright?" he asked, drawing the brunette's attention back to him. Kurumu was about to answer when she was suddenly bombarded. "Forgive my rudeness, beautiful, I don't think we personally met, let me introduce myself. I am the president of the newspaper club Jin, but you can call me Jin," he said as he pulled a bouquet of roses out of nowhere and handed it to Kurumu. She just stared at him blankly and without even looking at the bouquet she turned to Naruto. "Of course, Naruto." She nodded before leaving the club room. After a moment of silence, Jin finally spoke. "Well, I guess we can call it a day. I'll see you guys tomorrow," Jin said as he left the boys in the hallway. "I'm not going to kill you," Naruto spoke upon picking up how tense the boy was. "Now, tell me exactly what actually happened," Naruto suggested as he crossed his arms and listened to Tsukun explain what really happened. As Naruto expected, someone like Jin couldn't be trusted. He couldn't let his friend take the role of patsy, so he began putting his plan in action. He had pretended to place interest in joining the newspaper club so he could turn whatever scheme had in mind against him. Still, he supposed learning that the boy and the vampire joined the club because Nekonim had pleaded for whatever student she could find to join wasn't all that surprising. Thankfully, Kurumu had found Moka shortly after Jin had left, and a bit of simple logic was able to convince the Pinkette why she had been too hasty in trusting someone like Jin, who would use whatever trick he had to get in her good graces. "Since we're all here, why don't we head off now?" Jin suggested with a friendly smile. "I guess so," Tsukun said with a frown. He was still mad about what Jin did the other day. Naruto took a quick glance over his shoulder and saw that Kurumu was watching them carefully. It was almost certain he would try to frame them, and as a result they would need a female on their side in order to corral that righteous fury to the appropriate target. "Sure thing," he said as the two of them followed Jin until they were outside. "Is there a reason we're out here?" Naruto asked as he looked around the field. This outfield area was where the gym classes practiced, and from the look of the equipment that was set up, either a class had just finished or was going to get to begin. Aren't we just at the back of the school? Why would we have a club meeting here? Sukun asked. You two need to relax. The others will be here soon. Jin said with his usual friendly smile plastered on his face. Naruto continued looking around, drowning out whatever Jin was saying with his own internal observations. Taking note of Kurumu's presence, he readied himself for whatever was about to happen. Well, now that we're here, I need you to look at the window over there. Jin instructed as he pointed at the window he wanted them to see. Why? Shouldn't we wait for the girls? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. For a split second worry crept into Jin's eyes before it vanished. Moka-san and Kurumu-san are much better than what I heard. Who knows, I think I'm falling in love with both of them. Weird, huh? He said casually. Sukun and Naruto looked at him, not expecting that. I swear that I will make them my women. He promised with a smug smile. Is he trying to get himself killed? Sukun thought as he sent a look to Naruto, who didn't so much as outwardly expressed anything. Suddenly noise came from inside the other side of the window. When Sukun looked through, his face grew bright red as he looked at a group of girls undressing. "Gin-senpai, this is," he tried to say as he turned his head and paled when he saw a camera in Jin's hand. "Girls' changing room? I know," he said, smirking as he quickly took a picture of the two freshmen by the window. "You black-haired pervert." Kurumu's sudden shout was enough to alarm Jin, who was about to run for it. Next thing Jin knew, he was knocked off his feet. He didn't have much time to ponder what happened as he checked for his camera, only to notice it was missing. Looking for this? He looked up to see Naruto tossing the device up and down in his hand. "Nice try, but you're a few decades too young to pull one over me." With that, he crushed the device in his hand. "See ya." Grabbing Tsukun by the shoulder, the two of them disappeared in a flash. Jin tried to get up and out of there, only for his legs to refuse to obey him. The sound of a cleared throat drew his attention. He looked up and paled when he saw a group of angry girls glaring at him. "Now ladies, this is actually a pretty funny story." He tried to explain, but it fell on deaf ears and he was forced to feel the wrath of angry females. From above on the roof, the quintet watched as Jin received his punishment. Moka all the while couldn't help but feel embarrassed that she had believed Jin's lie so easily. "Sukun-san, I'm sorry about not believing you and slapping you." As always, she was too adorable for her own good. "It's okay, Moka-san," he was just relieved that it wasn't him down there. There was a distinct possibility that he literally would have been killed if it was him. "I still can't believe you two joined that pervert's club." Kurumu mused as Moka's adorable reaction became flustered. I didn't know, Nekonim-sensei pleaded with me to join the club and she's my favorite teacher. I just couldn't say no." She reasoned as the pincat pouted. "There's only one way to fix the situation." Naruto began as he folded his arms and adorned a serious and sagely expression. "And that's for me to join the swim club." Naruto's history of saying something dumb or silly and treating it as serious served him well, as he didn't so much as crack a smile. "What does that have to do with anything?" Once more the pincat had gotten flustered. "That gives me the perfect chance to show you my Baikai-nai." Kurumu purred as she clutched onto Naruto's arm. "I was joking, Moka-chan," he tried to appease the pincat upon noticing her look. "Look, how about this? How about we see if there's a club we should join for just you and me?" Kurumu had to stop herself from interjecting and suppress her jealousy. Being mean to Moka would only hurt her chances to win more of Naruto's affections. "Well, that would be fair, right, Moka? It sounds like it'll be fun." Moka looked at the blue-haired girl in surprise. Was she being friendly? I guess. Well, she did reason to herself that she needed advice from the succubus, and if she was going to try and be friendly, that would make things easier. "How about this, Naruto and I can go see if they'll let us into the swim club, and then the two of you can go and see if there are any nighttime club accepting members." "Well, that sounds like a fair idea. We're going to have to go with a nighttime club as we won't have enough time available during the day anyway." Not to interrupt, but can I be helped back down to the ground?" Sukun asked, hoping his friends wouldn't completely forget him. "Right, I suppose we should go inside." Naruto reasoned as he beckoned them all over to shushing them inside. Moka let out a sigh of disappointment as she continued to gaze at the moon. Naruto was over an hour late. He had promised that he would meet her to go to one of nightclubs, but that looked like that wasn't going to happen. "Oh, Moka-san, fancy meeting you here." She turned to see it was none other than Jin, who was waving and smiling at her. "Looks like it's night already." "Look, it's a beautiful full moon tonight," Jin said as he looked up at the moon, a mysterious grin spreading across his face. "Jin-senpai, what do you want?" Even as someone as sweet as Moka could have her patient wane, especially when she was in a somber mood. "That Uzumaki is no good for you, don't you see? He's left you up here all alone and cold while he's playing kissy face with Kurono. That dumb kitty paid off to keep Naruto and Kurumu busy, seemed to have done his part." Jin almost felt bad for the fact the blood he substituted for his own was in fact pig's blood and would be useless in the little weirdo's experiments. "You should just forget about that guy." Naruto wouldn't do that. Okay, well the part with him making out with Kurumu completely screamed Naruto, but he would not abandon her and he sure as hell would renege on a promise. Just please leave me alone senpai. Moka murmured, starting to feel uncomfortable. Tonight, I'll console you. Jin whispered. Let go of me. Moka tried to pull away from him, but he wouldn't let her go. I'm only trying to hold you tenderly. Jin said. No, you're trying to feel me up. Moka shrieked. This time she managed to get out of Jin's embrace and took a step back. Haha, well it is a full moon, isn't it? On nights with a full moon, I'm overcome with a feeling of power and suddenly lose all control. Jin stated as he stared up at the moon. He turned back to Moka and puckered his lips. Just give in. Moka didn't let him get any closer as she shoved Jin away using her vampire strength, sending him crashing into the wall beside the door. I will never betray him. I believe in him and nothing you or anyone says will ever change my mind. Aha, are you serious? How admirable. I'm falling for you harder and harder, Moka-san, Jin said as his form began to change, but I told you right. That on nights with a full moon my self-control weakens. And when my emotions excite me so much suddenly I lose control of myself. By now Jin had fully transformed into his monster form, a werewolf. Then I'll make you my woman by force, Akashiya Moka. Jin rushed at Moka with his claws extended forward. Become mine, Moka. A yellow figure flashed between the two and slammed into Jin, sending him flying back. The figure landed in a crouched position before standing straight to reveal Naruto. I thought I told you to keep your hands off my girl wolf. Naruto shouted at the werewolf as he cracked his knuckles. Naruto-kun. Moka exclaimed. How did you find us here? Jin growled. I recognize the signatures of everyone I care about. The moment I picked up on her distress I realized something was up. I've given you one too many chances, Jin, and now it looks like it needs to be beaten into your thick skull that Moka is off limits. Damn. How dare you get in the way of our special moment. Naruto felt a sudden large increase in Jin's demonic levels as the wind began blowing fiercely around him. Back off. Jin yelled in rage. While Jin's yokai energy might have been impressive against another student, he had a long way to go before he was a threat to Naruto. Every block, feint, or strike was noticed and countered with combat proficiency. So far most of these students seemed to rely on their innate power they were born with. They were untrained. Powerful but unskilled. Even with 10 times the power, Jin wouldn't be able to touch him as he was easy to read. Are you going to keep running? Afraid of speed? It was as if Naruto faded from existence and appeared right in front of him. Wow. An elbow buried itself in Jin's ribs, sending him flying back. Crushing you would be easy and we would be right back to square one, so I think it's time for a change of tactics. Naruto appeared behind Moka as his hands hovered over her chest. Since you want Moka so badly, let's see how you handle her true self. The quick meeting of their eyes was all they needed to communicate. With that the rosary was pulled loose from the chain. An aura of power exploded outwards, a shimmering crimson aura expanded outwards. The power seemed to draw the bats on the property as they swirled around the vortex. Moka's body seemed to expand, become more lean and fuller as the outfit now clung tightly to her form. Her vibrant pink hair began to shimmer and the life that once radiated from them took on a silver sheen and her eyes glowed a menacing red. Your Moka, the true self, had awakened. Moka's true form. Sukun thought, trying to reconcile that this scary-looking young woman was the same as the sweet bubbly girl he was friends with. Moka's eyes were closed as her transformation finished, her arms stretched over her head. It has been a long time, Naruto. Her gaze made contact with him. We have much to discuss, but indulge in my curiosity. You could have finished this mongrel off at any time, why bring me into this? Idiots like that never learn when I kick their ass, they need a special kind of lesson. Also, do I need a reason to see Madara-chan? As always you remain an idiot. She averted her gaze. Also, who better to show him his place? He knew she would refuse to show it, but the vampire was at least smirking on the inside. By now the effects of his attack should be wearing off. That is indeed true. Their attentions shifted back to the werewolf after hearing a growl come from him. I'll make you suffer for that. Jin was growling loudly at Naruto as he slowly stood up. His gaze drifted to Moka, who had a confident look on her face as she stared at him. So this is Moka-san's true form. Moka quirked an eyebrow as she watched her opponent's body shake a bit before looking. She caught the lustful look he was sending her. Hahaha. Awesome. Even after transforming, you are still beautiful, Akashiya Moka. I couldn't care less that you are a vampire. I'll definitely defeat you and make you my woman. Jin shouted as he lunged forward. You will do no such thing, Moka responded as she threw her hand forward in a dagger position, but before she could make contact Jin grinned and disappeared. What are you fighting way over there for? Reappearing on top of the entrance to the roof with his arms crossed, he called out to her. If a vampire's power is strength, then a werewolf's power is speed. And the strength of the moonlight also strengthens my speed. Tonight, the full moon is shining as bright as ever. On the night of a full moon, a werewolf is invincible. He began shooting all over the place, confusing the female vampire and the others. Remember our training. Remember what it's like fighting a speed type. Being someone who often fought using a speed-based style, Naruto could track Jin's movements easily. Moka closed her eyes and began concentrating. She began recalling all those spars the two of them shared. The mental image of Jin was replaced with that of a younger Naruto. She ducked to the left and swept with her right leg. The first of Jin's attacks were thwarted. She jumped back and brought her arm up, thrusting her hand up like a dagger, nearly piercing Jin's jaw. This was easy. Much easier considering Naruto was trained while werewolves were known for their wild nature and didn't train in arts like most monsters, relying on their speed, powerful bodies, and fierce nature. Give it up. As long as the full moon is out, it will be my victory. I'll crush you both. Jin exclaimed as he ran around Moka at incredible speeds. Even if Moka could defend against Jin's assault, she lacked the speed in order to land a decisive blow on him. 60 seconds, Moka. 60 seconds. What on earth did he mean 60 seconds? 60 seconds until he stepped in. Would he really do something like that? No. Naruto wouldn't humiliate her like that. Moka opened her eyes and noticed Naruto had promptly stopped following Jin's movements. Alright Moka, it's over, time for you to finish this. Moka's eyes followed Naruto's and she realized what he meant. It was indeed over now. As if she has any chance at beating me. Jin howled as he landed on the roof, not catching Moka or Naruto's smirks. Jin lunged forward at incredible speed, but was stopped as Moka's hand shot forward and grabbed Jin's claw, halting it in place. What? I was stopped. Could it be? Overconfidence in oneself is a flaw, especially when you rely on your power coming from such an exploitable weakness. Naruto pointed out the sight behind them. The moon was now hidden by clouds. Damn it. How could I not notice that? I should have ended this quickly. A low menacing growl erupted from Moka's throat as she glared at the werewolf, tightening her grip on his arm. Wait. Don't be so hasty. I can still beat you, with or without the moonlight. I'll show you what the natural energy of a monster is. Just be a good girl and become my woman, Moka. Before he could even move, a brutal right kick suddenly connected with Jin's skull, sending him crashing into the gate and tumbling over the side. Weakling, only one male has the right to even consider courting me, and a simpering pervert like you disgusts me. Know your place. The sound of a body colliding onto the ground was heard by everyone. Hopefully the fool will finally give up. He said as Yura made her way to him. So was it good for you? The fist to the nose was the answer her got. You could have just said no, Naruto grinned and softly rubbed his nose. Consider yourself lucky you have proven your character enough for me to overlook your perversions. While we are on the topic of courting, I shall make one thing clear. She forcefully grabbed Naruto by the tie and pulled him forward. Since you seemed interested in having your little mistresses, I shall indulge this, considering we will outlive them by far anyway, but I will make one thing clear. I will be the first to share your bed. Their lips were so close Naruto could taste them. She extended her palm out, silently telling him to hand over the rosary. As he placed the rosary in her hand, Moka grabbed onto Naruto and brought him closer to her. Now then, before I go, I wish to feed. Naruto let out a laugh. Yura had no problem speaking her mind. Well, since you ask so nicely. No sooner after he said that, her fang pierced his neck and she began to drink his blood. As always, you prove a joy to feed on. Moka said as she licked her lips seductively. She leaned closer to him again before whispering into his ear, I await the day when you try and make me yours in every sense. It only made sense that as much time as she spent around the blonde, she got a fix on his sense of humor. The vampire took great pleasure in seeing the blush on Naruto's face, seeing as the shameless blonde was rarely outflirted. With that, she placed the seal back on the chain, turning herself back to her pink-haired self, who tiredly fell against Naruto's chest. But the situation finally taken care of, the two of them could now finally start diverting their attention to more important things. Reputation was one of the most important things to have when in facility inhabited by monsters. That was something that was quickly growing apparent after news of Jin's defeat began to spread. The news was received in various ways, all depending on those that heard. A freshman taking on an upperclassman and a S-class monster was unheard of. Naruto though found himself under extra scrutiny as he was already getting attention more for his companions than anything he himself had did. That Saizu incident was still fresh on the mind of the other students, so that simply just encouraged the ever-growing rumor wheel. As the tale passed the halls of Yokai Academy, many students were intrigued. Who and what was Naruto? How did he manage to snag a vampire and a succubus? Some would learn the hard way that their brainless tactics of attacking him head-on only led to endangering their own health. Some of them thought that just because they were a large monster that they could scare him, whether small or large, one good solid punch from him proved more than enough to knock out every single one of his attackers. Regardless of that fact, that left one other matter that had to be taken care of. I'm sorry, but we're quitting the newspaper club. What? Why? Shizuka was surprised at this announcement. It's because of that pervert Janae. Kurumu replied. I'm sorry, Moka apologized, adding, Janae has been harassing me and causing trouble with our group. I don't feel comfortable being in the same club as him. She tried to explain. Ms. Nekanam pouted. That won't do at all. The school paper will be closed down if you leave. There has to be at least 3 members in order to operate. Are you sure you won't reconsider? Naruto frowned, looking to Moka. He noticed that look on her face and knew with more pleading, she'd probably caved in. On the condition that you get rid of Janae, would that not serve her as a favorable alternative? Ms. Nekanam frowned. I'm sorry Mr. Uzumaki, but there needs to be 3 members at least. Casting out Janae would leave the club only with 2. So if either Naruto or I join, that won't be a problem, right? Kurumu asked her. If either of you 2 join, then I can remove Janae for inappropriate conduct. Shizuka answered with a nod. Moka looked at the others, slightly apologetic for bringing up the option. Do we want to join? She asked her friends. I don't want to force you guys to join if you really don't want to. I'll join if Naruto's joining. Kurumu stated as she glomped onto his arm. I might as well join. Kami-sama knows what trouble you 2 will get in without me around. But weren't our major troubles a result of them wanting to fight you? Sukun thought, but dare not say to the blonde. What followed was the first round of test scores, letting the students know their standing. UWAHHH, the test's results are up. I can't look. Alright, I'm in 56th. I failed. Moka and Naruto made their way to the board, ignoring the shouts of the other students and the stares they were getting from some students. Naruto and Moka looked up at the results, searching for their names. Oh, look, I'm 13th. Moka said as she found her name. That is excellent, Mo-chan. Naruto praised as he found his position on the board and let out a sigh. 9th. He wondered if this was a little joke the universe was placing. In the top 10. Wow, that's amazing, Naruto-kun. Moka said happily as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's arm. What can I say? I just have the aptitude for it. He replied with a shrug. A lot of what he was learning was simply a review of what he learned in academy, only this time around he paid attention. Hey guys. Moka and Naruto turned to see Tsukun walked up to them. You both did really well, I'm jealous. What about you, trainee, where did you score? I'm right in the middle, 128. Tsukun replied before his head drooped a bit. His rank was in the middle of all the students. Compared to you guys. Don't fret too much on it. Naruto patted his friend on the shoulder. We can always find you a tutor or something. You wouldn't want to be stuck in mediocrity forever, right? Yeah, I guess. Tsukun was nearly knocked over as Naruto was glumped by his blue hair vixen. He and Naruto. Oh Kurumu, hello. Moka greeted the succubus with a smile. Morning, Moka. Kurumu replied happily as she held onto the blonde. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Did he miss something? This was the part where they would normally be trying to claw each other's eyes out. He was hoping the 2 managed to come to some kind of understanding, as that would make things easier. So how did you do on the test, Kurumu-chan? Naruto asked as he looked back at the board. I think they left my name out, couldn't find it. Kurumu looked away nervously. Naruto chuckled. She was bad at hiding the truth of what happened. Tell you what, I'll be happy to tutor you. In response, his face was smashed into her pillows. Yahoo! You're the best, Naruto. Moka's eyes visibly twitched, but she was able to keep in control of her anger. She didn't want to ruin things before they had begun. The 2 had agreed that fighting over Naruto was getting them nowhere, and besides, with all those girls giving Naruto attention and flirting with him, gave them common ground to bond on. Keeping those hussies away from their blonde. Someone else was reading the chart, not too far away from the group. A girl with short brown black hair and purple eyes. She wore a different type of uniform than most of her classmates, except for the same yellow pleated checkered skirt worn by the other female students. Her normal school attire was a brown cape, a pink top, a yellow bow to keep everything together, and a light brown witch's hat. She also wore brown shoes and pale yellow knee socks. Congratulations, Yukari-san. It looks like you're number 1 again. A voice came from behind the small dark-haired girl. Her eyes averted from the conversing group to see 3 students walk up to her. It's just what we should expect from the girl genius. Skipping up to high school at her age and now topping the charts, impressive. Class representative. Yukari looked at the middle student warily as he drew closer. While Naruto was being occupied with his girls, he missed what was going on, but Tsukun picked up the slack and noticed a couple of students being pushed away as 3 students around a girl and ushered her outside. Huh? What's going on? He thought. The sandy-haired leader of the group of boys' smile soon turned into a vicious sneer, but don't think that means you can get all high and mighty half-breed. In our eyes you're nothing more than a brat barely out of nappies. He reached out and pushed her head back, making her take a couple steps back. And what's the big idea with this outfit? Think you're so special you can dress however you want? I despise those like you. Leave me alone. The girl screamed. I shouldn't expect anything less from the likes of you. He then leaned in close to her face. After all, your true form is a witch, is it not? It makes me sick thinking I share the same class with the likes of you. Sukun caught sight of something that really bothered him. The three older classmen bullying the young girl. It reminded him of him. Of being bullying. Picked on for being weak. It made him upset. It made him angry. Leave her alone. Sukun yelled, whipping the beeped arm like a piston was driving it. Sukun then began to question the wisdom of his actions as they turned to him. Oh, and who are you? Don't you know this is a witch you're defender? You one of those half-breed lovers? Sukun gulped but stood his ground. Just leave her alone, okay? He pleaded as the three students began moving towards him. The bravest of the three, most likely the ringleader, was the first to react. He beeped his hand and threw a punch, and for a moment Sukun froze as the fist was coming towards him. He could see it coming. Wait, he could see it. He stepped back and it missed. Why you? Shit, the boy stumbled before throwing an uppercut to which Sukun avoided. The hell you two standing there for? Get him. He snarled as they charged him. Sukun once more dodged out of the way, leading into the three boys colliding into each other. The leader attacked and Sukun threw up his hands only for him to throw up his arms and blocked it. His body reacting on instinct as blocking and counter-attacking was something Naruto drilled in his head so many times during training. The effect was instant. The punch sent the boy flying and crashing into his cohorts. Sukun looked at his hands in shock. I did that. He couldn't believe what happened. The three boys were about to retaliate when suddenly an expression of fear overtook them and they took off running. The little witch looked at Sukun with a cross of fear and admiration. He defeated them like they were nothing and scared him off. What kind of monster was he, she wondered. At the same time she was developing admiration for him. Most monsters could care less for witches. Sukun was brought out of his thoughts and went over to offer the witch a hand. It's okay now. Hey, are you okay? He stammered. Still a bit skittish despite what happened. The witch stared up at her savior with awe. Finally, someone who won't be mean to me. She thought with glee, I don't have to be alone anymore. She suddenly jumped the boy and pulled him into a tight hug, startling him, causing him to fall back in surprise. Thank you very much. She fought back tears as her enthusiasm overwhelmed her. It was no problem. Anyone would have done it. He continued to stammer. This was his first hug from a girl that wasn't his family. It felt nice. They shouldn't have been picking on you, no matter what you are, Ms. Sendo, Yukari Sendo. I'm a freshman here even if I don't look it. She introduced herself. I am too. And what do you mean by not looking it? He asked. Sure, she was a bit short, but that didn't warrant the insults or jabs. I am 12 years old, on the verge of becoming 13 in a few weeks. She admitted, her expression and body language becoming defensive. Wow, so you must be really smart. He stated and realized he sounded like an idiot. Of course she was. She was ranked 1 on the scores. Instead of scoffing and calling him an idiot, she giggled and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Thanks. You going to introduce us to your friend or what, Sukun-san? The two turned to see Naruto was sitting up in one of the trees, along with Moka and Kurumu. I see Naruto isn't the only one that works fast. Kurumu teased, bringing a blush to Tsukun's face at her implication. The three of them came down from the tree. Ah well, this is Yukari. Tsukun awkwardly introduced as the girl went rigid. Uzumaki Naruto, the freshman terror as he was known. He was quickly becoming popular thanks to rumors of him defeating several students known for not only being strong, but for often harassing the female population. Akashiya Moka and Kurono Kurumu were also popular for their renowned beauty, said to easily compete with the looks of the other girls of the school, even the seniors. The blonde was unknown, Moka a vampire, and Kurumu a succubus. If angered they could tear her apart easily. Hello, I am Sendo Yukari. Please treat me kindly. She replied and bowed. The three monsters shared a glance before turning back to the girl. A decision made almost instantly as a grin broke out on Naruto's face. Well, welcome to our little club then, Yukari-san. I am Uzumaki Naruto. Akashiya Moka. Kurono Kurumu. Tsukun realized he hadn't introduced himself. Aono Tsukun. It looked like things were going to get a bit more interesting. So, given all that, why would have to be? Tsukun hesitated just a bit. It should be 8, right? That's right. Yukari said approvingly. I'm sure you'll do really well on the test tomorrow. Thanks Yukari, you're a real lifesaver, he told her. He couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. Sorry, this must be a real inconvenience for you having to tutor me every night. I am sure it cuts into your own studying time. Oh, I don't mind. She said quickly. This is nice. I enjoy spending time with you, the young witch replied as a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Tsukun, you're really nice. Because I am a witch it's hard to find anyone besides other witches that treat me with respect. Well, how else would I treat you? Well, I mean, you kind of saw it yourself with the upperclassmen. She pointed out as Tsukun winced. It really bothered him that a nice girl like Yukari was bullying and discriminated for such circumstances outside of her control. The fact she was the rank 1 student in the entire academy while being a freshman spoke well of her mental prowess. Isn't there some kind of way to make it easier to avoid standing out? I mean if you didn't wear your hat others will be less likely to know you're a witch. Tsukun jolted back when Yukari slammed her palms on the table. Like hell I will. She said and defiantly crossed her arms. If I did that then it would be the same as saying I'm ashamed of what I am. She said as she titled her head down. I'm a witch. It's who I am. What I am. And I won't let anyone, human or monster, make me feel ashamed of being what I am. Yukari-san, he uttered. Besides, who else do you know can pull off this look? She asked as she struck a pose. He flashed her an amused smile. Well, I have to say it works for you. Yukari's face began to heat up as she fell back and quickly recovered herself, poking her fingers together with a flustered expression. Tsukun became flustered upon realizing what he said, leading to a rather tense and awkward atmosphere. Silence befell them as both were too embarrassed to speak. Though the silence was finally broken when Naruto's voice pierced the room from behind the door. Hey. Is it safe to come in? You two aren't doing anything shameless are you? Their panicked and flustered denials were soon met with Naruto's cackling. Over the course of the next few days things were settling down. Much to his annoyance Naruto was elected head of the newspaper club being outvoted 3-2. Threatening Tsukun with bodily harm garnered his vote. Trying to appeal to the girls with flirting and gifts surprisingly proved not as successful. Then again, he wasn't surprised considering what one of the duties of being the head of the club entailed. He had to read over and proofread all the information from the other members before it could be published. In other words, paperwork light. Well, at the very least that meant the others could be delegated to the other roles and things could be run officially. Kurumu was pretty much built for the gossip column considering her bubbly personality and ability to gather information. Moka, being a bit more serious and studious, would be handling the articles. That left Tsukun and the recently joined Yukari to handle the advertisements and editing. By the time they were finished for the day it was the late evening. Ensuring the others he would soon join them at the cafeteria, Naruto went over the last of the paperwork. Just as he was about to leave a knock on the classroom door drew his attention. He proceeded to walk over to the door and was greeted by the last person he expected to see. Janae. Uzumaki, he half-heartedly greeted. What do you want? He would have thought that the werewolf would not have been so foolish to come after you. I haven't come to fight you or anything like that, relax. Taking a moment to study him he took notice of the perverted wolf's appearance. Janae's hair was ragged, his skin had become sunken and pale. The showboat-style confidence he once showed had disappeared from his face, leaving in its place a worn-out shell of a man. Look, you may not realize it, but you and your little group saved my life. Naruto rose an eyebrow. And I suppose you're here to make amends. A matter of speaking. Look, long story short I tucked up. My actions could have started a war between my species and the vampires if I was successful in forcing myself on Moka if I hadn't been stopped. I lost control of myself and became a savage beast. For werewolves to lose control of ourselves is the greatest embarrassment and doing so would often result of the execution of any of our kind who loses themselves and go rogue. As such, to repay you guys from saving me from myself I'm giving you a heads up. I'm sure you heard about the disappearances that have been going on lately. Naruto had heard the other day that one of the students hadn't showed up and people were looking into it. I heard about it, but I haven't looked into it. Well, to give you a heads up I overheard some of the discipline committee talk about their suspicions while observing one of the scenes. They believe whatever or whoever is responsible is part snake because they found not only snake scales, but heavy impact marks, so they believe whoever is responsible is also strong. But why would you think that might group in particular would be targeted? He couldn't help but be curious. So far the pattern of missing students have all been female students of considerable beauty. In the worst case scenario we have to consider that the students might have been fed on by a predatory monster, in which that case leads to particular monsters like a basilisk or beatrice. Naruto recognized both creatures' names as one he had heard in the passing, but he didn't have in-depth knowledge of them. Could it be possible that it's a student or even a faculty member? Well, so far he had yet to encounter any faculty members of the school displaying despicable behavior in an academy of monsters. It was highly unlikely everyone would be on the up and up. The basilisk has been hunted to near extinction to point encountering one is rare, and beatrice are a solitary and vicious species, so it's highly unlikely either one would have simply chose to attend Gakuen. It's just that in case of the disappearances and likely factor of why they were taken would fit this modus operandi. Unless they were taken for another reason. Naruto pointed out as his expression darkened. There were other just as sinister reasons. In other words, I should keep an eye on Moka and Kurumu, thanks for the heads up Janae. Like I said, consider us even. He replied with a half-hearted wave. What you do with the information is your business. Just keep my name out of it. The last thing I need is the safety commission gunning for me, which reminds me for your own good don't run afoul of them. Even yourself or Moka would be hard-pressed to take on the likes of the head of the safety commission and come out of it unscratched. Now that he was finished saying what he had to say, Janae left. With this new information in mind, he wasted no time in looking into this story before getting to the cafeteria to share what he learned. And you're sure what he says is credible? Considering Janae's known trickery, Kurumu was hesitant to take anything the werewolf said seriously. I looked into it, Kurumu-chan, and there have been at least 7 disappearances. 4 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 1 freshman girl. All of them were of female monster species of great beauty, whose physical differences were additional or superficial appearance-based changes. Yukari frowned. There's not that many snake-based monsters that could have been silent and leave behind little traces of their struggle. For instance, if there are no poison left behind, that severely limits the number of possible species. One of the possible species is a bash. It could have crushed the girls and swallowed them whole, which would explain why there hasn't been any trace of the missing girls' bodies. Sukun blanched at that, going pale at Yukari's theorizing of such a horrible fate. How come the faculty isn't warning the students? Surely this is a danger that everyone should be made aware of. While the girls were concerned, they were nowhere near alarmed as Tsukun. Tsukun, this is just food chain basics. With such a large gathering collection of monster species, there are those who will flaunt the rules and prey on those weaker than them. It's commonplace. Don't tell me where you came from, this wasn't stress to you? Moka questioned. Well, I just figured at such an academy such a thing wouldn't happen. His response was far from convincing. Anyway, if we can, we should look into this and gather whatever information we can. Just from the time frame alone, it's highly improbable some outsider has been able to sneak into and off campuses 7 times without alerting campus security or not being witnessed by any of the students or staff. At the very least, we may be able to gather enough information to see who might fit the perpetrator's tastes, and we'll know who needs to be protected. If he was going to be stuck as the head of this club, he might as well use it to his advantage. As far as the investigation was concerned, Naruto had hit a wall. Unless the perpetrators slipped up, they would be no closer to finding their identity beyond this point. As Naruto began approaching the dorm, he sensed a presence. Turning, he looked to see it was the swimming club's leader, Ichino's Tamao. She was definitely a beauty. Her long turquoise hair was styled in a ponytail, and she was wearing a white top along with a violet wrap-up cover swim skirt with floral patterns. Upon closer inspection, Naruto noticed that her forehead was small, she had full lips and nice bone structure. Despite a rather light complexion, it was obvious the young woman had Greek ancestry. It appears we meet again, Uzumaki Naruto. Indeed, Tamao-san, how goes your club? I heard you and your members had a large feast the other day. He casually stated, bringing up the rumors of the swimming club's incident. The smile didn't leave Tamao's face. Surely you do not hold my race's natural instinct against me. After all, rumors say you are getting quite comfortable with the vampire, Moka Akashiya, whose species feast on the blood of others to survive. Surely condemning one is unfair unless you account for the action of others. On one hand, most people are justified in seeing your actions as villainous. You must admit, feeding on the entire life force of your prey is murderous and absolutely gluttonous. On the other hand, those who don't use their head and willingly walk into such traps are fools. It's a conundrum really, having to find a balance of seeking peace while also accepting that some lives aren't worth saving and that certain beings are scum who only deserve death. Is there a reason why you sought me out, Tamao-san? He asked as Tamao reached into her bag and brought out a letter. I was asked to deliver this to you, she informed him as the letter dropped from her fingers into Naruto's opened, waiting hands. She watched as his eyes carefully scanned the envelope. Then, bringing up his thumb, he began to shred open the top of the enclosed letter, with a slight tearing sound permeating the air. Putting the envelope under his armpit after he carefully opened it and read the letter's content. Unfortunately, I'm in a hurry, but I'll see you around sometime, Uzumaki Naruto, she said with a flirty smile. I'll be looking forward to it, he replied, looking up from the half-read contents of the message. Naruto watched as the watery beauty tossed back her hair and walked away with a little sway in her step. Though to think that they are here, he mumbled as he went back to reading the letter. The following morning, Naruto had met Moka outside her dorm room and they attended class as usual. There was only one thing that could be done. Hail the students of the art class using copies until the culprit struck. Well, in art class today, you'll be painting pictures continuing with last week's theme of what's important to you. The teacher spoke to the classroom, which seemed to be enraptured by her words. And just what is important to you is the art in each and every one of your hearts. Feel free to paint whatever you want. Naruto moved to the hallway outside and the girls ended there. All of the girls did have art class, he recalled. That was the only connection they all have. That fact in itself was definitely suspicious. He turned his head and came face to face with a girl who was staring at him curiously. Do you want to join Ishigami-sensei's art class? I'm skipping class 2 to be with her. She quipped, a smile on her face. No. Naruto said as any self was head of nude modeling for sensei was dashed. He went on his way, nearly face-faulting at the comment the girl made. On his way back Naruto ends up crashing into someone. Oh, the person moaned. Naruto looked down and his eyes immediately caught sight of yellow lace panties. He averted his eyes as they trailed up to come face to face with Kurumu. Naruto. Kurumu exclaimed as she straightened out her skirt, trying to cover her panties. Sorry about that, Kurumu-chan, didn't see you there. He apologized and extended a helping hand. With a blush, she took a hold of Naruto's hand and lifted her up with ease. With an ever-growing heart, she hugged Naruto. I'm so happy that I bumped into you, Naruto. I can't believe we bumped into the hallway, what a coincidence. She said ecstatically before burying Naruto's face in her plentiful fists. Naruto eventually pulled himself away. Not that I don't find your way of greeting me unique. I'm curious about why you do it this way. Kurumu pouted as she replied, don't you like it, Naruto? I'm just trying to make you happy since you are my destined one after all. Right, Naruto smiled. Kurumu, now well, what you were doing was nice, well, me admiring your tits the whole won't do much for developing our relationship. Like for instance, you haven't gotten to know me yet. Do you know my birthday? My favorite color? Food? My parents' names? He listed off as Kurumu paused. She looked disheartened and hung her head. I guess I haven't taken the time to learn much about you. Sorry, Naruto. No, it's okay, he assured her as he brushed his hand against hers. Now would be a good time to start. But then he was engulfed in a hug by Kurumu. Yahoo! Let's have lunch together later, K. Okay. During the course of the next few days, Moka had been spending less and less time with the group. Naruto couldn't help but wonder if Moka was genuinely taken with the interest of art and if her role as the beard had been compromised. Regardless, the time away had given Naruto and Kurumu time to bond. As such, Naruto learned a few things about Kurumu, like that the succubus had a sweet tooth and she liked to cook. That her favorite color was, in fact, red and that she preferred felines to canines. She even talked a bit about her family. Her mother was a famous movie star and her father was a human baker who died from an illness. Apparently, Kurumu inherited her finesse for baking from her father. Each day, after Naruto and Kurumu separated, he followed the scent of a different girl and he found himself in Ishigami's office. He knocked and there wasn't any answer. Peering inside and noticing it was empty, he stepped inside and could smell the scent growing ever stronger. He eventually made way over to a closet where the faint sound of crying was coming from. He tore it open and was filled with shock by what he saw. It was a statue of a naked girl, covering up her face with her arms. But that was not the thing that was shocking. What shocked Naruto was that the statue was crying. Despite being stone, it held a look of utter terror infused with sadness. Then, Naruto noticed the hairstyle it was using. It looked familiar, hadn't he seen a girl with that same hairstyle? Wait, could this statue be? I see. So that's what happened. Your little game ends here, and today Ishigami Hitomi, the art teacher, had a passion for eternal art. The euphoria she gained from staring at beauty was indescribable. To say she was happy to accept Moka as a student was an understatement. Even as an older and more experienced woman, she was quite envious of Moka's body. Her smooth skin, her curves, her assets that exciting the hot blood of young men. Ishigami did not enjoy being as tall as she was or her rough, snake-like skin. As such, she was quite envious of the female form, the young female form that she lacked, which made her an outcast in her youth. Ishigami-sensei, what do you think? My painting doesn't look too bad, does it, sensei? Ishigami gazed upon the portrait. To her surprise, the figure was male but easy on the eyes. His blonde hair was vibrant, a light shade akin to gold. His blue eyes, sky blue, the tentative detail almost made them seem lifelike. Is this? Yes, indeed, this must be Moka-san's, Naruto. The one that she talks so much about. The dreadlock teacher said with a grin as Moka blushed. Indeed, I have to say I'm not so bad looking, huh? He asked from the doorway. Ishigami tensed as the masculine voice came from behind her. Before she could react, he was in front of her right next to Moka. Naruto. Moka whined. You weren't supposed to see it yet. Moka-chan is such a good artist. You should let me paint you too. I have all sorts of cute little outfits you can try on while I paint. He playfully teased her. Moka flushes, understanding the implications of his word. You hentai. He grasped her chin. Only with you, he said, kissing her forehead. After all, you're mine and no one else's. I'm the only one that can enjoy your entirety. He possessively stated, clarifying to the art teacher that he was staking his claim. Naruto-san, while I'm sure you must have a reason for being here, you're interrupting Moka's. I don't mind Ishigami-sensei, Moka interrupted. My surprise is ruined anyway. She pouted cutely. She had hoped to surprise the blonde with the image when it was done. Sure, she was supposed to be helping investigate the disappearance of the girls, but she couldn't help but let her inner artiste flourish. Naruto then turned to Ishigami, gaining a sharp expression. I believe it's time we stop playing games. Why don't you tell us for what sick purpose do you have those girls petrified in your office? With sudden realization, Moka connected the pieces as she slowly backed away. Then that means the girls are. Ishigami's dreadlocks immediately began reacting and the air was filled with hissing sounds. Her hair soon began moving and soon, multiple snake heads poked out to glare at the couple in front of them. The beautiful students of this academy. The Medusa finished with a wicked smile. Yes, I've turned them all to stone. Her face warped into a twisted and maniacal visage as she spoke with utmost joy. Isn't it artistic? And you too will be turned into stones and added to my art collection. With a few alterations you would fit in as well, Uzumaki-san. You and Akashiya Moka will be my latest and greatest additions. The hell we will. Naruto shouted as he flung several kunai indiscriminately. Now to a guy like Naruto, or any guy, the phrase of altering him done by a person who clearly liked to do weird and freaky shit like turning students into stones, it scared him shitless as only one thing came to mind. The kunai pierced the side of the snakes, causing them to hiss angrily. You little bastard, I'll neuter you for that. Naruto's pupils shrunk. Before the Medusa could react, Naruto palm slammed her gut, sending her flying back with such incredible force, it caused the wall to crack and shatter. Her monster heritage was the only reason she was still alive as her body laid crumpled on the ground. Well, that solves our case. The only response Moka could give was a stunned nod. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.